Chapter 528. Getting smaller and smaller, getting smaller and smaller. In the end, the three huge flying aircraft carriers became only about tens of centimeters in size, and they were pulled down from a high altitude by the power of the psionic arcana and finally fell into Zhang Cheng's hands. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Tony Stark would never have believed that this exquisite model-like gadget was a war machine that almost caused great destruction to the whole world. It took a full minute for him to recover from the shock, and he asked in a hurry, "Who are you? What kind of cutting-edge technology did you use to shrink the scale of an object to 1% of its original size?" Technology? No, I don't know anything about technology. I use magic, a mysterious energy that exists widely in the multiverse. Zhang Cheng explained casually. While talking, he directly used the power of the psionic arcana to go deep into Iron Man's brain and directly copied all the knowledge in his mind. The combination of psionic arcana plus magic crystal fragments plus mind flayer's brain cells is enough for him to copy a genius lifetime knowledge in just a few seconds and store it in the long-term memory area. Although he can't use it freely, he can call it when needed, just like looking up information in a library. Huh, magic? Are you trying to make me laugh? Tony Stark has always been a firm scientist, and naturally, he doesn't believe in such a mysterious thing as magic, and he showed a disdainful expression. Just because you don't know and don't understand doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Remember, there are countless things in the world that you can't understand, and staying humble is the shortcut to the supreme truth. After saying this meaningful sentence, Zhang Cheng directly stuffed the three flying aircraft carriers into his pocket, intending to take them back to Magic Earth and put them in his home as decorations, completely ignoring the ugly face of Braised Egg. After all, this thing is much cooler than a toy model in the ordinary sense. The cost of one alone is tens of billions of dollars, and it can be pulled out and used at a critical moment. Wait, seeing that Zhang Cheng was about to turn and leave, Nick Fury finally couldn't help but stand up and say, "Hand over the flying aircraft carrier. It belongs to S.H.I.E.L.D., not your toy." Ha ha. S.H.I.E.L.D.? Dear Mr. Director, do you think it is possible for S.H.I.E.L.D. to exist after the Hydra Rebellion? Even if they survived, it would be impossible for them to reach their previous scale and influence. As for these three flying aircraft carriers, they were originally spoils of war. I snatched them from Hydra. What qualifications do you have to order me to return them to you? Zhang Cheng asked with a laugh. Even though he didn't really like these flying aircraft carriers with exaggerated designs and limited practical uses, he wouldn't hand them over just because of a few words from the other party. What do you want? The one-eyed director didn't get angry because of the rejection, but calmly continued to probe. He understood that the extremely dangerous person in front of him was not the kind of person who could be threatened to achieve his goal. To be precise, the existing weapons on Earth, even nuclear warheads, could not pose a real threat to it. Not to mention the 100-meter-long body, just the ability to invade one's brain and control one's thoughts, as well as teleportation, were enough to give one a headache. Not to mention the ability to use blood to create draconic descendants. It's simple. Deal. If you want to get something, you have to pay the corresponding price. As long as you can afford the price, I don't mind returning them to you. In addition, I believe you should understand that the price I am referring to is not something like US dollars, gold, gems, etc., but something that is really valuable in my eyes. Zhang Cheng straightforwardly offered his own conditions. Anyway, for him, it would be best to get something useful from the shield that is about to disintegrate. It doesn't matter if he can't get it. He can take it back as an ornament. A deal? Okay, I understand. Last question, but what are you going to do with these half-dragon and half-human guys? After solving the problem of the ownership of the flying aircraft carrier, Nick Fury turned his attention to more than 100 draconids. He has seen the terrible destructive power of these super soldiers with his own eyes. The thought of having such an armed force not under the control of himself or any national government makes him feel restless. Zhang Cheng apparently knew the one-eyed director's thoughts and asked with a smile, "What do you think should be done? Are you going to let them work for S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Avengers?" "Can't I?" Braised Egg narrowed his eyes and glanced at the Draconids who stood motionless in place. Do you remember what I just told you? The Draconids are an extension of the dragon bloodline, so I am the supreme master to them. Are you sure it is a wise choice to let such a group of guys become your subordinates? No, I'm not sure, but I think it's more dangerous to let them follow you. How about this? Let's make a deal. You give these Draconids in order to make them loyal to the Avengers, and I'll give them a small gift in private as compensation. How about that? There's no doubt that Nick Fury wants to monitor Zhang Chung by monitoring these Draconids, and by the way, make use of these Draconids' powerful combat power. Okay. But the premise is that your little gift can't disappoint me too much, otherwise, your Draconid Legion will rebel. As soon as his voice fell, Zhang Chung turned directly and ordered the hundreds of Draconids loudly, "Return to human form. From now on, you must be loyal to the Avengers." "Yes, great master. Your will is our command." With deafening shouts, the Draconids knelt on the ground and slowly returned to their human form. God, these guys are as scary as fanatics. Hawkeye's mouth twitched as he exclaimed. But while he was in a daze, Steve Rogers immediately picked up his shield and slammed into the Black Widow who was close to him. He ran out of Alexander Pierce's office in the blink of an eye. "Damn it, catch the captain. Don't let him run away." The one-eyed chief reminded loudly. "Leave it to me. This old guy can't run far." Tony Stark, who had been having a hard time with Captain America, immediately activated his Iron Man armor and chased after him, constantly firing shockwaves. The S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, which was already riddled with holes, suddenly became worse. It was estimated that it would collapse before the U.S. military could take over. Listening to the commotion outside, Nick Fury took a deep breath and said, "I need you to get Steve back to normal. Can you do that?" Chapter 529. Time flew by, and half a month passed in a flash. After a big battle between S.H.I.E.L.D. and the parasitic Hydra inside it, the whole world fell into chaos. Although Alexander Pierce's Insight plan eventually failed, the bad effects it caused continued to ferment. Whether it was the U.S. military or the World Security Council, which had been severely tricked, they did not intend to let S.H.I.E.L.D., a huge intelligence organization infiltrated by the enemy, continue to exist, and they began to take over their strongholds and resources scattered around the world. At the same time, the remaining Hydra members were not idle. Some continued to stir up trouble for the agents loyal to S.H.I.E.L.D., and some quickly contacted other Hydra leaders, lurking in the dark to prepare for the next action. Of course, the most important thing is Captain America, who is regarded as a hero and a spiritual symbol by the entire Western world. Oh, now it should be called Hydra Captain Steve Rogers, escaped from under the eyes of Nick Fury and many Avengers. At present, the U.S. government is furious about this matter, and the condemnation of the one-eyed director is even higher than the previous one. Some radical guys even think that he should be sent to a military court to be shot. Unfortunately, this kind of threat could only stay in words at most. Nick Fury has been in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. for too long enough to have a lot of evidence on hand of politicians and bureaucrats breaking the law. Although the slogans are loud, there are few who really dare to put it into action. In the end, they can only turn big things into small things and small things into nothing. They secretly track down Steve Rogers and strive to catch Captain America as soon as possible and restore him to normal. As one of the driving forces behind this series of disasters, Zhang Chung has long disappeared from the public sight with the new S.H.I.E.L.D. director, Coulson. The only thing the outside world knows is that more than 100 super soldiers who can freely switch between human and dragonoid forms have been incorporated by the Avengers. In S.H.I.E.L.D.'s new secret base, several agents are methodically tracking the whereabouts of Hydra members and restoring part of the intelligence network system. However, among the many busy figures, there was an idle person sitting on the sofa, flipping through profound physics books while transforming the teacup in his hand into all kinds of simple or complex substances. The speed at which he did it was simply unbelievable. Obviously, he is none other than Zhang Chung himself. After months of constant exercise and exposure to new elements, his alchemy level has advanced by leaps and bounds, surpassing Miles. Coupled with the knowledge absorbed from the world of Azeroth and the Faerun continent, no matter what element it is, as long as its internal structure is understood, it can be transformed through alchemy stones, even the so-called first metal in the Marvel universe. Vibranium is no exception. The only drawback is that the more complex the element structure, the more magic energy is required during the transformation process. It seems that it's time to find some time. Zhang Cheng closed the book in his hand, squinted, and muttered to himself. After all, the alchemy stone represented an alchemist's understanding of the relationship between matter and energy. It also represented the worldview in one's heart. Every alchemist's understanding of the alchemist's ants, alchemist. Although it wasn't that he couldn't use other people's alchemy stones, it wasn't as convenient as using his own alchemy stones. Hey, what are you mumbling about? Sky, who was wearing a black tactical vest, ran in from outside and sat on the opposite side of the sofa. Since she was able to master the most basic psychic ability, she applied to become a field agent. With her strange ability, she solved many troublesome enemies for the team. No, nothing. Zhang Cheng quickly shook his head, put the cup back to its original state, and put it back on the table. All right, how's your mission? Do you often go to the basement to catch up with your ex-boyfriend? Don't mention it. I don't know what's wrong with Coulson recently. He's always hiding in his room alone. He doesn't see anyone except May. As for Ward, I don't want to talk about him now. After saying that, the Vibranium, who is yet to awaken, tore open a bag of potato chips and stuffed them into her mouth without any ladle-like image. It was obvious that the Hydra Rebellion had a great impact on her. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a turning point in her life. In addition, as her telepathy became stronger and stronger, she began to be able to read the shallow thoughts of a specific target within a certain range. With this, she was able to predict the enemy's attack method in advance several times. Oh, well, it seems that you haven't been very happy recently. But I still want to remind you that the psychic ability comes from the deepest self-affirmation in the heart. Please remember this. No matter what happens in the future, never doubt the choices you make. Only in this way will you become stronger and stronger. In addition, I'll inform you that I'll be leaving around the 4th of next month. If you have any questions, you'd better ask them early. After saying this, Zhang Cheng ignored the other's shocked reaction. He stood up and returned to his room, slamming the door shut. *T. After a full minute, Sky came back to her senses and immediately stood up and rushed into the director's office of the secret base. She shouted at Coulson and May, "Not good. I have bad news for you." Mr. Dragon said, "He's leaving around the 4th of next month." What? What do you mean by leaving? He's leaving this world, or is he leaving us? Coulson asked loudly with a nervous face. Sorry, I'm not sure. It should be the former. You'd better ask him yourself. Sky scratched her head awkwardly. Damn it. I hate this state where everything is out of control. Coulson complained in a low voice and then turned to his old partner. Help me ask what's going on. If it's the former, that's the best. But if it's the latter, make sure he doesn't leave our surveillance range. No problem. I'll go with you. As soon as the two women stepped out of the office, Coulson dialed a secret contact number hidden behind the wall. About 10 seconds later, Nick Fury's voice came from the other side of the phone. What happened? The dragon said he's leaving. Leaving? Leaving our world? I'm not sure yet, but I think it should be. What are you going to do? Confirm it first. If it's true, then activate Plan B and maximize the benefits as much as possible. I believe you know very well how precious the power he has is to us, whether it's those strange supernatural powers or the dragon's blood that can create super soldiers. Got it. Chapter 530. After repeated confirmation by the two women, the news that Zhang Cheng was about to leave this world quickly spread like a drop of water falling into a cup, splashing ripples. At the very least, all the people and organizations who knew his true identity began to try to get in touch with him and make some deals that both sides could accept. In just a few days, he obtained an artificial intelligence program designed by Iron Man Tony Stark himself, two multifunctional satellites manufactured with the latest technology, and a professional-level workbench. As for whether there was a backdoor program inside, it was hard to say. Of course, Zhang Cheng himself didn't care too much. Anyway, after leaving the Marvel Universe, no matter what countermeasures you have, it doesn't make any sense. At that time, he just needs to find a country on magic Earth with the ability to launch satellites into a designated orbit in the name of an individual or a company. In fact, in the United States, as a capital paradise, many large companies and billionaires will launch their own private satellites as long as you can afford it. After all, the most advanced satellites are often treasures created by the integration of internal technology companies of powerful countries. No one would believe that a privately launched satellite had advanced technology that was decades ahead of the world. In return, Zhang Cheng gave the other party a magic introduction notebook that he wrote in his free time. As for whether he could learn it or not, it was another matter. Maybe the next time he comes to the Marvel Universe, Iron Man will engrave arcane runes on his suit and fight with the enemy with the help of the ubiquitous magic energy. Lying on a most beautiful beach in Los Angeles, the city of angels, Zhang Cheng drank ice juice while admiring the beauties in swimsuits in front of him. As the last few days of the holiday, he naturally would not continue to stay in the Dark Shield headquarters. Instead, he enjoyed his holiday under the supervision of two agents, because he knew that once he went back, all kinds of trouble would immediately come as scheduled. Whether it was the North American Parliament or the European Parliament, he would be asked to explain what happened in the fragment world and why the whole world collapsed. In addition, there was a task given by the woman who claimed to be the creator to search for the key and find the hidden seal. In short, he couldn't expect to be idle for a while. Zhang Cheng could not help but smile and sigh as he felt the endless sunlight being converted into energy by the broken magic crystals. Humans are really contradictory creatures. When you are weak and humble, you desire power, wealth, fame, and power. But once you have these, you begin to envy your ordinary and leisurely life. However, sighing was one thing. He didn't want to lose the knowledge and power that he had obtained with great difficulty. Just as he finished the ice drink in the cup and was about to swim in the sea, a young and beautiful woman suddenly came from afar and waved her hand happily. "Hey, handsome guy, are you alone?" "Yes." Zhang Cheng nodded with a smile. "Are you interested in joining us?" The woman turned around and pointed at the dozen or so men and women holding surfboards not far away. "I'm sorry, but since the last time I talked to Alexander Pierce, I've been completely disappointed in Hydra. Please tell Daniel Whitehall not to disturb my vacation, or I'll make him die a horrible death." Zhang Cheng sneered and exposed the other party's little trick. With the power of his psionic ability, he easily read all the information from the brain of the woman in front of him. In fact, including a dozen guys holding surfboards, there were at least 20 Hydra people on the surrounding beach, trying to lure Zhang Cheng out of S.H.I.E.L.D. supervision. "You know us." The woman's pupils contracted sharply, and she quickly put away her hypocritical smile and winked at the stranger lying on the ground next to her. Without saying a word, the latter pulled out a pistol from under the ice and pointed it at Zhang Cheng's side waist. He lowered his voice and threatened, "Sir, my real advice is that you'd better come with us." "Oh, are you sure this thing works on me?" Zhang Cheng's face showed undisguised contempt. Firearms, especially pistols, can't even penetrate the energy field around his body. Obviously, these people don't know his true face, let alone what kind of terrifying power he has. "Cut the crap. Let's go." The man waved his fist and slammed it down on his abdomen. The next second, "Gotcha." "Ah." He waved his fist, and his wrist made a crisp sound. Then he knelt on the ground and screamed in pain. It was most likely a fracture. "I warned you." Zhang Cheng pursed his lips and said sarcastically. Other Hydra members saw this scene and didn't bother to continue to hide. They pulled out their weapons and knocked over two S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and surrounded them from all directions. The sound of gunshots caused the tourists on the beach to suddenly fall into a panic, and they ran away in the blink of an eye. Seeing that she was surrounded by her own people with guns, the woman who spoke first seemed to be emboldened and threatened again. "Maybe you're not afraid of fists and feet, but that doesn't mean you're not afraid of bullets. Please believe me. If you continue to resist, I don't mind breaking your legs. Break my legs? Why don't you try? With that, Zhang Cheng grabbed the unlucky guy with a broken wrist, and with a little force, he directly broke his neck. Fuck! This guy is a madman. Fire! Fire! Be careful not to hit the vital parts. With the order to attack, Hydra's people immediately pulled the trigger, and countless bullets crossed the air and went straight to non-fatal parts such as hands and feet. Interestingly, these bullets were finally blocked by an invisible wall less than 10 centimeters away from the body and fell to the ground with a tinkling sound. I said, "Guns are useless to me. Since you ruined my beautiful vacation, I think I should give you a little punishment." As soon as the voice fell, Zhang Cheng raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Snap! Except for the woman, all Hydra members raised their weapons to their temples and pulled the trigger without thinking. For a while, brain splattered, and the most beautiful beach in Los Angeles was dyed blood red. Evil. Devil. You are a devil. The woman was undoubtedly frightened by the tragic scene that had just happened, and she was trembling all over. Zhang Cheng gently stroked the beautiful face with his right hand and whispered in her ear, "Kill Daniel Whitehall." The woman shuddered violently. Her eyes became extremely slack, and her mouth kept repeating in a low voice, "Kill Daniel Whitehall. Kill Daniel Whitehall." Chapter 531. Daniel Whitehall, one of Hydra's most outstanding scientists during World War II, is also the first pioneer in modern history to begin studying Inhumans. Like most Hydra members, he is also quite obsessed with supernatural powers, especially the first mysterious item named 084 by S.H.I.E.L.D., the obelisk. He has always wanted to crack the mystery behind it. However, with the failure of Project Insight and the fall of Alexander Pierce, the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. was full of Hydra members was exposed worldwide. So much so that he had to hide for a while to prevent being discovered by the U.S. military, which was biting around like a mad dog. But all of this was broken by a Hydra member who escaped from S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. Because this guy brought a very important piece of news. A piece of news about the creation of a super soldier. According to the other party, on the eve of the launch of Project Insight, Alexander Pierce made a deal with a mysterious person in exchange for 2 liters of the other party's blood. And this blood not only gives a person unimaginable strength and resilience, but even the rate of cell aging will be greatly reduced. Even just a little bit can extend human life by 20 to 30 years. There is no doubt that Daniel Whitehall was tempted. An investigation was immediately sent to find out where Alexander Pierce had been and whom he had seen during this period of time. Soon, in the surveillance video of a roadside shop in Washington, D.C., Hydra agents found the picture of Zhang Cheng and Alexander Pierce talking face-to-face. As a result, he didn't know the real situation at all and immediately decided to send 6 teams to capture the mysterious man. At this moment, Daniel Whitehall was sitting in a chair, patiently waiting for his men to come back. Locked in a small secret prison by S.H.I.E.L.D. for decades, he has exercised extraordinary patience and believes that the 6 teams will bring back good news. Just as he picked up the cup and was about to take a sip of coffee, a young man rushed in and reported in a hurry, "Sir, not good. The teams we sent out were all wiped out. Clarissa was the only one who came back alive. She seems to have been strongly stimulated, and her mental state is very unstable." What? 6 heavily armed teams were all wiped out. Even though Daniel Whitehall usually likes to pretend to be deep in front of his subordinates, he couldn't help but stand up in surprise. That's 6 teams, a total of 30 people. Furthermore, each of them was equipped with a large number of advanced automatic weapons. Even if they were to face the strongest special forces of the United States military, they might not necessarily lose. But now, they were all annihilated after kidnapping 1 person? Oh, that's not right. One of them came back alive. Thinking of this, he immediately ordered with a gloomy face, "Bring Clarissa here. Immediately. Right away." "Yes." The young man hurriedly bowed his head and ran out of his boss' office as if he was running for his life. About 6 or 7 minutes later, He came back with a woman in a sexy swimsuit with listless eyes. This woman was none other than the one who had struck up a conversation with Zhang Cheng at the beach in Los Angeles not long ago. "Tell me, what on earth happened?" Daniel Whitehall did not beat around the bush and asked bluntly. As a scientist who had devoted himself to the study of supernatural powers, he had long abandoned the primitive, low-level physiological impulses of human beings. No matter how beautiful or how alluring a woman was standing in front of him, he would not feel anything at all. "Mr. Whitehall is asking you a question. Hurry up and answer." Seeing that the people he brought were silent for a long time, the young man on the side couldn't help but yell loudly. But this yell didn't matter. Clarissa, whose pupils were originally unfocused, suddenly raised her head, and before anyone could react, she grabbed the pen on the table and quickly rushed up and stabbed it into Daniel Whitehall's left eye. While stabbing, she roared madly, "I'm going to kill you! I'm going to kill you!" For a while, blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. As one of the behind-the-scenes leaders of Hydra, Daniel Whitehall was killed by his own men for no apparent reason. And because of his sudden accidental death, this secret research center belonging to Hydra fell into chaos. The two S.H.I.E.L.D. agents lurking inside, Gemma Simmons and Bobby Morse, also took the opportunity to steal a lot of information and took the initiative to withdraw from this place. At the same time, Zhang Cheng also left the City of Angels and took a Quinjet to the headquarters of the Avengers building. Because just a few hours ago, the woman who claimed to be the creator finally conveyed a message through the parchment scroll that he could leave this world and return to the Tower of Time at any time. According to the private agreement with Nick Fury, he must leave in front of the other party. In short, the one-eyed chief was a little worried, fearing that he would hide in the dark and do something. So he wanted to use a series of instruments to confirm whether he really left or played tricks. After flying in the stratosphere for more than an hour along the established route, the Quinjet pilot finally began to lower his altitude and finally landed slowly on the tarmac of the Avengers building. As soon as he opened the hatch, he saw a braised egg waiting at the door with many Avengers. Other than Thor, there was no one left. Even the Hulk, Dr. Bruce Banner, was present. "Oh, I didn't expect so many people to come to see me off. Should I be honored?" Zhang Cheng got off the plane and teased in a half-joking tone. "Honored? No, it's us who should be honored. You know, a dragon that only exists in myths and legends is not seen every day. Not to mention you gave me an interesting note." Tony Stark shook the parchment-bound Magic 101 in his hand. "Oh, the chief actually told you my real identity? This is a bit unexpected. I thought he would hide this secret and take it to the grave." After that, Zhang Cheng led the way through the door and came to the interior of the building. It has to be said that this Avengers headquarters, which was built with a huge amount of money, is indeed very advanced. The AI Butler Jarvis is voice-controlled. Not only can it independently research, manufacture, and repair a full set of systems including robots and airplanes, but it also has all kinds of entertainment facilities. The famous wines in the cabinet in the lobby alone are enough to equal the annual income of more than 100 middle-class American families without eating or drinking. As the saying goes, do you think you can buy happiness with money? No, their happiness is beyond your imagination. As one of the richest people on the planet under his feet, Iron Man is the object of condemnation by countless economic experts. Many people only see the so-called selfless actions of saving the world, but ignore that he is a minority who controls 99% of the wealth of this country. Chapter 532. Of course, it had nothing to do with Zhang Cheng how Tony Stark used the monopoly to absorb wealth, or how he was both a whore and a chastity. To him, there were two types of people in this world. One was those who could bring him benefits, and the other was those who couldn't. There was no doubt that Iron Man belonged to the former. After briefly answering some of the other party's problems in the process of learning magic, he immediately got a gift in return. To be precise, it was the result of Tony Stark's testing of countless magic runes with the help of a supercomputer. There were a few sequences among them that he had never even thought of. No wonder he was called the Cursed Man of Knowledge by the Emperor of the Universe, Thanos. This fanatical exploration of knowledge alone was enough to make people feel admiration and fear. So what you mean is that in the process of releasing magic, the most effortless way is to build the corresponding spell model in your mind. Iron Man sat at the bar, drinking a bottle of whiskey worth tens of thousands of dollars while asking questions with great interest. Although at first he was dismissive of magic through simple learning, he found that magic was not what he thought, a bullshit superstition. On the contrary, like science, magic also has a unique and rigorous system, and even in many ways, it is very similar to the most advanced quantum physics. As a result, he became obsessed with learning and began to immerse himself in another sea of knowledge. Zhang Qing nodded lightly and explained, "That's right. In fact, I have been to a world with a highly developed magic civilization, where every spell model has been carefully sculpted by countless mages, so they release more spells than their counterparts in other worlds, and they are more powerful." "So you have been to many worlds?" Black Widow, who was wearing a sexy black dress and standing at the bar in charge of bartending, keenly grasped the key point. "Yes, I have been to many places and seen countless intelligent races of all shapes and sizes. I even personally transformed a city with a population of hundreds of thousands into undead. Killing death, deceit, threats, intimidation, pain, despair. What I have experienced is far beyond the scope of what you can understand. So in my eyes, the battle between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra can only be regarded as an interesting game. That's all." After saying this sentence, which made many people present show surprise, fear, or disgust, Zhang Qing picked up the glass and drank it, then took out a cracked spell book and threw it to Tony Stark. "Take it. There are a lot of spell models here. You can study them first. I hope that the next time we meet, you will be a powerful mage, and we could discuss magic together." Thank you." Iron Man hesitated a little and quickly made a choice. Although the bloody and cruel words just now made him very uncomfortable, no matter what, knowledge was knowledge. Only by understanding the power of magic could he better protect the world. "You're welcome." After a few polite words, Zhang Qing stood up and came to the empty space in the middle of the hall. His whole body expanded rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, he restored his huge dragon body. Then he said to Nick Fury, "Mr. Director, if you don't mind, I'm leaving now. Is there anything else you want to say to me? Those draconians created with your blood won't suddenly rebel because of your departure, will they?" The one-eyed director asked with a worried look. After all, since the incorporation of these super soldiers into the Avengers, many crises have been solved in private. Many terrorists are as fragile as babies in front of them. It is foreseeable that as long as the current state continues, it will not be long before the world enters unprecedented peace and quiet. Don't worry, they will obey my last order, which is to be loyal to the Avengers. But one thing to note is that if one day the Avengers are divided, they will choose one of the divided factions according to their own wishes. So you have to be careful in the future, don't have any disagreements. As soon as his voice fell, a meaningful smile appeared on Zhang Qing's ferocious face, followed by a terrifying force tearing space and directly dragging his huge body into it. In the blink of an eye, a behemoth with a body length of more than hundreds of meters disappeared out of thin air in the living room of the Avengers building. Jarvis. "Tell me, what happened just now?" Tony Stark was the first to react and quickly called his intelligent butler. "Sir, unknown energy interference was detected, suspected to have cut time and space, creating a passage to an unknown location. In other words, he really came from another world." "I'm not sure, sir, but the possibility is more than 90%. *T. I missed the opportunity to communicate with an intelligent life from another world, especially since he has so much interesting magic knowledge." "Don't get excited, Tony. Judging from the tone just now, he is likely to come to our world again." "Yes, and this magic book, Jarvis, analyze what is recorded in it." While the interior of the Avengers building was in a mess, Zhang Qing had already passed through the gap between worlds and returned to the door of the Tower of Time and Space. Moreover, The woman who claimed to be the creator did not deprive him of his dragon body and allowed him to freely control and choose. Looking at his original human body, soaked in flowing water, he hesitated for a moment and finally decided to let his soul return to his body. But before that, he still needed to do a little optimization. There was no hesitation. Zhang Cheng first controlled countless tentacles that grew out of his brain, opened his human skull, and injected a large number of Mind Flayer's brain cells into it. Then he endured the pain and pulled out the broken magic crystal, shrank it to the size of a finger, and carefully inserted it near the nerve center until the Mind Flayer's brain cells kept dividing and the broken magic crystal merged with the entire brain. After the skull was covered, only the fingernail-sized protruding lens at the top of the forehead could be seen. It was impossible to see anything unusual with the hair covering it. Finally, he squeezed out a portion of divinity and divine power from the dragon's body to transform the weak human body. After doing all this, his soul slowly separated from itself and plunged into the body that had fallen into a deep sleep. The next second, boom, an indescribable energy ring erupted. Chapter 533. He did not know how much time had passed. Perhaps it was a few minutes, perhaps it was a few hours. When Zhang Cheng regained consciousness from the impact of the mysterious knowledge, he was surprised to find that there was an additional power in his weak human body that he had never felt before. Although it was very weak, it was unusually pure and filled with an indescribable life force. In order to confirm that this was not an illusion, he raised his right hand and tried to use this power. In the end, in just a few seconds, an unknown seed appeared in his palm out of thin air. It quickly took root, sprouted, and bore fruit. Looking at the heavy, purple fruit, he put it in his mouth and took a small bite. Instantly, the sweet taste was transmitted to his brain through his taste buds. Without a doubt, this was not some energy or illusion, but a fruit that had really borne fruit. Combining the strange feeling he had recently and the power seed that the woman who claimed to be the creator had repeatedly mentioned, Zhang Cheng finally realized what this was. It was creation, a kind of creation from nothing, from simple to complex, creation of everything, even the supreme power of intelligent life. Although this power of creation was still very crude and could only create some simple, non-organic objects and plants, its potential was frighteningly high. Just think about it. How many of the gods and the myths and legends around the world could create mountains, rivers, animals, plants, and humans from nothing? Adding them all together, the number could be counted with 2 hands. No wonder that woman said that the people chosen by the parchment were all her children. The seed that she had injected into the chosen bodies was not anything else but the power of creation, the authority of the Creator. All right, now I believe that you are the creator of this world. Zhang Cheng smiled bitterly as he muttered to himself. As a very suspicious person, he had never truly trusted anyone, even if the other party was the master behind the parchment that was almost omnipotent. But now, the naked reality proved that even if he had deciphered the mystery of divinity and divine power to a certain extent, in the eyes of the other party, he was still a pawn that could be manipulated. It was just that his position had changed from insignificant to more important now. Looking at the giant dragon's body that was lying on the ground in a deep sleep, Zhang Cheng suddenly remembered that he had not summoned Kolo Kelba for a long time. He could use this opportunity to give it some divinity. He did as he said. The dragon's oath was activated. In less than a second, a giant dragon shining with violet light passed through the plain passage and appeared in front of the tower. He lowered his huge head and said, "Father, long time no see. You've grown a lot." Zhang Cheng raised his hand and touched the hard scales near the creature's mouth. This little guy that had hatched in the Song of Ice and Fire had now grown to an astonishing 50 meters long. His 2 eyes were shining with an astonishing arcane light. Even if a great mage from Dalaran came, he probably wouldn't be a match for him. Queen Daenerys has been kind to me and has always provided me with plenty of food. However, she seems to have run into some trouble recently. She always looks worried. Compared to the last time he summoned Kolo Kelba, his intelligence had obviously improved. His logical thinking was also exceptionally clear, far surpassing the intelligence of a normal adult. "Oh, what kind of trouble did she get into?" Zhang Cheng asked as he extracted divinity and divine power from the dragon's body, slowly injecting them into Kulo Kelba's body. The latter didn't understand what this strange liquid was at all. He answered to himself, "It seems to be a matter of politics." It said that some nobles in the north and the west are still unwilling to acknowledge the restoration of the Targaryen dynasty. They're gathering their armies, and war is about to erupt. Ha ha ha! A bunch of short-sighted idiots. Let them fight. It won't be long before the true enemies outside the Great Wall come south, bringing with them terrifying destruction and death. When the time comes, they'll know how foolish and laughable their actions are. The true enemies. Kulo Kelba blinked, unable to understand the meaning behind Leyland's words. "Don't worry, I'll go back and help when the time comes." "All right, go back and rest. It's best if you stay away from places where humans gather for the time being." After saying this, Zhang Cheng didn't care about Kulo Kelba's reaction. He immediately activated the unsummoning and sent the huge dragon back to Westeros. Then he left the Tower of Time and appeared out of thin air on the busiest street in New York, Manhattan. Before he could figure out the date and time, two other men in black suits and black sunglasses rushed over from the corner and said in a low voice, "Mr. Zhang, we're enforcers sent by the North American Parliament. You'd better not try to resist or run away. Otherwise, we have the right to use some violent means." "Don't worry, I won't resist or run away." Zhang Cheng spread his hands with a smile, indicating that he was no threat. He had long expected that he would be summoned by the Parliament as soon as he appeared, so he wasn't flustered at all. "Thank you for your cooperation. Gavin, prepare to teleport. Teleportation ready. 3, 2, 1. Whoosh. A blinding white light flashed. The world spun. When their vision returned to normal, the three of them had already left New York and arrived at a completely sealed room. There were no windows around. An ancient U-shaped table was placed in the middle of the room, and 13 chairs were lined up in order. There was a lit candle in front of each chair, providing a faint light. With his keen magic perception, Zhang Cheng quickly realized that these burning candles were not ordinary goods, but powerful magic items. Just as he was about to lean closer to see what kind of magic the candles contained, the candlelight suddenly flickered. Then, 13 mysterious hooded men appeared on the chairs out of thin air. One of the men sitting on the main seat picked up a gavel and gently knocked on the table. He said in a slightly tired voice, "Due to this war game, all the lords of the entire Brooklyn area have been wiped out, and the fragment world has completely collapsed. As the speaker, I hereby announce that the hearing has officially begun. First, let's ask our only surviving witness, Lord Zhang, to describe what exactly happened." Obviously, the 13 mysterious men sitting in the room were not random people, but the 13 senators who controlled the highest supernatural power in North America. Judging from the look in their eyes, the impact of this incident was quite significant. Otherwise, it would be impossible to muster so many people. Glancing at everyone sitting there, Zhang Cheng calmly bowed and began to describe what happened in the fragment world. Chapter 534. There was no exaggeration. There was no instigation to distort right and wrong. There was only a simple and logical description, with his intelligence that exceeded the limits of human beings, as well as his ability to read, analyze, and predict the surface thoughts. Zhang Cheng fabricated a lie from nothing. Although every word he said was true, the result obtained when put together was exactly the opposite of the truth. When the last word fell, the whole room fell into silence. After a full 2 or 3 minutes, the man who called himself the speaker finally broke the silence and asked, "Do you have any opinions?" No, he's telling the truth." The woman on the third seat on the left shook her head and gave an answer that was unclear whether it was the result of a magic test or something else. "Faust, this old man is still alive?" The man on the first seat on the right said with a strong sense of vigilance. "Dead? Do you think a guy who can destroy the Vatican's Angel Legion with his own power will die so easily? Moreover, It is said that he also cracked the mystery of death. It's not that easy to kill such a necromancer. But I don't understand. Why would he want to attack our people? Could it be that there are some unspeakable secrets hidden in the fragment world? Don't think too much. Even if there are secrets, we can't find out. That's right. Let's deal with this matter first. Don't forget, due to the annihilation of the Brooklyn Lords, a large number of outsiders have flooded in. In just a few days, all kinds of vicious cases have emerged. Even ordinary people feel that something is wrong. Brooklyn needs a counselor to restore order. I suggest that we let Zhang Cheng be a counselor. He is not only a powerful wizard, but also an alchemist. He should be able to suppress those bastards who use their power to commit crimes. It had to be said that the North American Supreme Council was very efficient. In just a few words, they had already started to solve the root of the problem. As for the old man who proposed Zhang Cheng to be a counselor, there was no need to ask. It must be Lafern, and his eyes were full of playfulness. Wait, before that, I have something to ask. An old woman with white hair took off her hood, and a sneer appeared on her wrinkled face. Please. Zhang Cheng bowed politely. Although he did not understand why the other party was so hostile towards him, this was clearly not the place to settle personal grudges. You just mentioned that when the fragment world collapsed, you were accidentally sent to a strange place. Do you have any evidence to prove it? The old woman narrowed her eyes and asked directly. Proof? Let me think about it. Zhang Cheng pretended to rub his chin. I think you can take it out, right? Although I don't know how you avoided Councilman Isidora's detection spell, there is no doubt that you are deceiving us, deceiving the entire North American Supreme Council. The old woman stood up abruptly and roared in a furious voice. Shut up, Xiao-Anna. It's not our style to slander a lord without any evidence. Lafern also took off his hood, and white arcs of electricity shot out from his eyes. Anyone with a bit of experience would know that this was a sign that he was about to lose his temper. Slander? Is it really slander? Don't think that I don't know that you want to train him like how you train Miles. The old woman did not back down and clenched a silver-white wooden staff. I remember now. Just as the conflict between the two was about to break out, Zhang Cheng suddenly patted his head lightly and took out a completely sealed black box from his magic waste bag under the gaze of a dozen pairs of eyes. This is my proof. The president seemed to have noticed something and immediately ordered, Open it. As you wish. Zhang Cheng did not say anything and directly broke the brass padlock and lifted the heavy box lid. In an instant, every councilman present could not help but gasp, because there were 20 eggs with uneven surfaces neatly placed inside. To be exact, they were black dragon eggs laid by the Black Dragon Princess, Onyxia. In order to make up for the lack of numbers in the Black Dragon army, she unscrupulously kept laying eggs, causing most of the dragon eggs to be a little weak and stunted. But black dragons were black dragons, and they inherited the powerful bloodline of the Black Dragon King, Nisario. Oh my god, these are dragon eggs. These are the descendants of the giant dragons. They're still alive. They can be hatched. The president carefully picked up the dragon palace with a face full of excitement. Giant dragons, the symbol of power and wealth. The last dragon on this earth had died a long time ago, and many powerful spells and formulas that required dragon blood could only be locked in the cabinet to collect dust. But now, 20 living dragon eggs appeared in front of them, although they were still very young and had not been hatched. For those who were extremely thirsty for dragon blood, it was simply an unparalleled surprise. Needless to say, the giant dragons themselves were very powerful creatures, and no strong person would let go of the opportunity to subdue a giant dragon. And those families with ancient inheritances would also hope that a giant dragon could protect their descendants for hundreds or even thousands of years in the future. Looking at the greedy, excited, and surprised gazes of these councilmen, Zhang Cheng smiled faintly and asked, Respected ladies and gentlemen, can I now prove my innocence? Of course. These dragon eggs are enough to prove that every word you said is true. Also, if you don't mind, can you sell me a few? Me too. I want one too. Go away. These dragon eggs are all mine. No one can take them away from me. For a moment, Everyone's attention was focused on the dragon eggs, and no one cared about the unpleasantness that just happened. Just as the group of councilmen began to fight for the ownership of the dragon eggs, Lafren suddenly released a dazzling electric light to force everyone back and closed the box with a bang. Please pay attention to your etiquette. We are the noble councilmen of the North American Council. Even if you see something you like, you can't lose your composure like this. According to the rules, I will send these dragon eggs to the auction at the end of this year. You don't have to fight for them. When the time comes, they will belong to whoever offers the highest price. Agreed. Yes. I think that Lord Zhang Cheng brought back extinct dragon eggs, and this merit alone is enough for him to be a Brooklyn councilman. I think so too. Pass. Chapter 535. Even though the 13 members of the High Council control the entire underground world in North America, and could even influence government decisions through some elites in the ordinary world, they still couldn't get rid of the entanglement of desire. A box of 20 dragon eggs laid by the Black Dragon Princess Onyxia was enough to make them give up their original plan and support Zhang Cheng to ascend to the important position of Brooklyn District Councilor of the New York Secondary Council. It was a bit ironic, because from the beginning of the council's attitude and Councilor Joanna's sudden attack, it all proved that the council originally intended to push him out as a scapegoat. Unfortunately, the plan was not as fast as the changes. Under the temptation of the dragon eggs, except for Joanna, the rest of the people quickly changed their attitude. Plus, Lafren's strong intervention, it finally turned into a happy farce. From this farce, Zhang Cheng saw the weakness of the council and the internal power struggle. Obviously, these guys who had terrifying supernatural powers were not the kind of old people who had no desires. On the contrary, they were more loyal to the desires in the depths of their hearts. Once they found something they liked or urgently needed, they would immediately find a way to get it. Sitting by the window in the luxurious restaurant on the upper floor of the Empire State Building, Lafren gently played with the foie gras on his plate and stared at the young man who was sitting across from him, enjoying the food without restraint. After a full 5 minutes, he put down the knife and fork in his hand and asked in a low voice, "You killed Faust and destroyed the fragment world, right?" "Oh, why do you have such a scary idea?" Zhang Cheng swallowed the delicious oyster in his mouth and raised his eyebrows exaggeratedly. "Because John is one of the few friends that I can still talk to. Not long ago, he told me that another person who entered the fragment world remembered that he was destroyed, but you survived intact. Isn't that suspicious?" Lafren explained meaningfully. Another person? Hearing this, Zhang Cheng suddenly had a bad feeling. It turned out that he was right. In the blink of an eye, a gloomy man who looked to be in his 40s and exuded a strong aura of death walked in from the entrance of the restaurant and sat directly at the table. He curled his lips and greeted, "My name is John, and my other name is Faust. Nice to meet you, powerful young man. Can you please explain how you killed the other me in the fragment world?" "Clone? No. You actually cloned and split your soul." Zhang Cheng's eyes widened as if he saw something unbelievable. Ha 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 ha. Great. You actually saw through my state at a glance. It seems that you are also very accomplished in necromancy. Faust, of course. I've said it before. He's different from Miles. He's a true genius. In addition, he had just taken out a box of 20 live dragon eggs in front of the most powerful council in North America. Obviously, after the fragment world collapsed, he went to a very interesting place. Lafren told him everything that had happened before without beating around the bush. There was no need to ask to know that the relationship between these two old men was definitely not as simple as it seemed on the surface. They might have formed some kind of alliance in private. "Oh, dragon eggs?" Faust revealed a surprised expression. "Were they? Give me 2. I know a magic that can make these little guys hatch and grow quickly." Lafren smiled and shrugged his shoulders. "Sorry, my friend. The dragon eggs have been sent to a safe place. If you want them, come and participate in the auction. Believe me, their transaction price will definitely be raised to an outrageous level. You'd better prepare enough funds. Don't worry. Have you forgotten that I killed an entire army of angels and robbed the Vatican of thousands of years of accumulation? Wealth has never been a problem for me. Faust confidently poured himself a glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. All right, I hope you can buy the treasure you want. Now, let's talk about the things that happened in the fragment world. After chatting for a while, Lafren once again brought the topic back. His sharp eyes seemed to want to see through the calm young man in front of him. Unfortunately, things were different now. Zhang Cheng, who had gone through a crazy baptism and even killed a few gods with his own hands, no longer cared about the mere underground world. He took the initiative to take off his contact lens, revealing the eye that sealed the demon Irida. How is it? Are you satisfied with this answer? What a powerful seal. What pure evil and chaos. You actually imprisoned such a powerful creature in your eye. Faust suddenly stood up, his eyes revealing a mixture of shock, fear, greed, and desire. He could feel that once this terrifying, unknown creature was released, it definitely had the ability to kill him. I need an explanation. Lafren was obviously not proficient in magic and reminded him with a frown. It's very simple. A powerful creature from another world is sealed in my eye. Its power is enough to kill you or Councilman John. In the fragment world, I released its power, so the other soul that Mr. John split off died. After saying this, Zhang Cheng picked up the napkin and wiped the corner of his mouth, looking at the reaction of the two old guys with great interest. Without a doubt, this news was not very suitable for them, who were used to being high above and dominating everything. After about 2 or 3 minutes, Lafren took a deep breath and sighed. All right, it seems that we have underestimated you. From now on, John and I will talk to you with an equal attitude. First, can you tell me what you plan to do next? Of course, it's to restore order in Brooklyn. Let all the residents of the underground world know who is the supreme ruler of this area. Zhang Cheng sneered, pretending to be passionate about power. Apart from this, don't you have any more ambitious goals? Faust leaned forward slightly and squinted his eyes as he hinted. No, not at the moment. If I have free time, maybe I will go around the world and enjoy the ancient ruins and the most beautiful scenery of nature. Don't you want to uncover the secrets hidden behind this world and make yourself stronger? What do you mean? It's literally what it means. You still don't know, right? In the world we live in, every 1,000 years is a fixed cycle. In the first 100 years of this cycle, many secret realms hidden by the gods or the ancient magic civilization will be opened one after another. Some of them are in the depths of deserted forests. Some are on unknown yellow islands. Some are in the polar regions of ice and snow. And some are in the depths of the endless ocean. Chapter 536. A cycle that happens once every 1,000 years? A secret realm that is about to open? It sounded very interesting. Tell me, what do I have to give and what do I get in return? After listening to the other party's description, Zhang Cheng quickly realized that these strange phenomena could be related to the mission given to him by the Creator, especially those so-called secret realms. There might be clues related to the seal hidden in one of them, or even the key to opening the seal. Seeing that he had the intention to join, Faust hurriedly struck while the iron was hot. It's very simple. We need your battle strength and alchemy skills. As for the distribution of the spoils of war, it will all be divided into 3, and each person will get 1. If there is an especially valuable item that cannot be divided, then we will use the fairest method of drawing lots to decide who gets it. The person who gets it will have to compensate the other 2. In terms of gathering information, the 2 of us will be responsible for most of it. Your mission is to salvage sunken ships and find the whereabouts of certain items when it is inconvenient for us. After all, our identities are slightly sensitive, and our every move will easily attract the attention of people with ulterior motives. Lafren quickly added. Zhang Cheng hesitated for a moment, but quickly nodded. Okay, I accept. Very good. From now on, the 3 of us will be an inseparable alliance. No matter who betrays the alliance, they will be hunted down by the other 2. When he said this, Faust's expression was unusually serious, and he did not seem to be joking at all. Obviously, he and Lafren were not the only ones who had their eyes on these secret realms. There must be other people or organizations. Agreed. Very quickly, An unknown alliance was concluded in the most famous restaurant in the Empire State Building. Before leaving, Faust gave Zhang Cheng a 16th-century nautical diary, asking him to investigate the sinking location of a Galen ship called the Flaming Queen in the Spanish treasure fleet. It was said that there was an exquisitely carved golden mural on the ship, which recorded the secret of the entrance to the City of Gold. Of course, they were not looking for the so-called gold, but for the goddess worshipped by the South American Indians, Bakhut. With this weather-beaten nautical diary, Zhang Cheng didn't stay outside for too long and went straight home. As soon as he opened the door, he found a large group of people sitting on the sofa in the living room. Among them were the succubus Wren, Doomsday Guardian Polak, Fallen Angel Shamir, Patty, as well as the three bright knights Jesse Livermore, Urban Best, and Bram Chalice. In the corner lay giant wolf Clover and a black furry ball that was constantly changing its appearance. If he remembered correctly, this black furry ball was a creature from the fragment world, and it had escaped with him. Without a doubt, the reason why they were hiding here was because the villa had set up a powerful protective spell, so they didn't have to worry about being discovered and tracked by mysterious forces such as prophecies. "How have you been recently?" Zhang Cheng asked with a smile. "Not bad, other than not daring to go out." Jesse Livermore winked playfully. "Sir, I heard that the entire Brooklyn is now in a mess. When can we go out and clean up the rubbish that is running amok?" Urban Best licked his lips. A bloodthirsty light shot out from his eyes. "Hee, don't worry. Let them mess around for a while. I have more important things to deal with, such as letting the entire New York underground world know that Brooklyn has a new master, and that is me." As he spoke, Zhang Cheng took out an extremely exquisite sapphire badge from his pocket. Through the light coming in from the window, one could vaguely see a blurry capital letter M inside the gem. "Councilman, you are now a councilman of New York's Secondary Council." Bram Chalice suddenly jumped up from the sofa, his face full of shock. "That's right. I just received the approval of the North American Supreme Council and officially became a councilman of New York's Secondary Council. Let's go. Accompany me to the headquarters of New York's Parliament and meet the other councilmen and give them a small surprise." "Wow, my handsome master, are you going to go on a killing spree?" Succubus Wren came up behind him, her voice full of excitement and teasing. "If you're going on a killing spree, please bring me along, great evil master." Apocalypse Guardian Polak patted his chest hard, his pupils flashing with green dark energy from time to time. "No, not a killing spree, just a little lesson and a warning to those who have crossed the line to let them know who they are dealing with." Zhang Cheng was not an idiot, and he knew very well that the current chaotic situation in Brooklyn may be partly caused by the influx of outsiders, but more of it was due to the ambitious councilmen and lords in other areas of New York. If the root of the problem was not solved, the chaos would never stop. After all, the underworld was a place where the strong preyed on the weak. Most of the time, as long as there was enough deterrence, the little tricks in the dark would naturally subside. Of course, if there was anyone who did not know what was good for them, he would not mind staining the throne of power with blood. Anyway, he had already asked around and found that the other councilmen in New York's Secondary Council did not have any powerful backing, so it did not matter if he killed all of them. He had to admit that with the support of Lafern, a councilman of North America's highest council, many things that were originally a little troublesome could be solved in the simplest, most direct, and most violent way. After passing through the main road in the city, the few cars quickly stopped in front of a commercial office building in Manhattan. Without any nonsense, Zhang Cheng took the elevator to the top floor, showed the councilman badge to the stone statue guarding the door, and went straight into a spacious conference room. He knew that the statues at the door were not ordinary statues at all, but gargoyles made by alchemy. If anyone tried to barge in, these seemingly harmless decorations would quickly come to life and tear the intruder to pieces. As alchemy creatures, gargoyles were far stronger than ordinary people. They could easily lift things that weighed several tons. Some of the more advanced gargoyles could even see through lies and illusions. Moreover, they could heal themselves after being injured. They were the most ideal guards. Chapter 537. Welcome? Is that true? Why do I feel that some of you here are hostile toward my arrival? Zhang Cheng sneered as he glanced at the members of New York's secondary council. He released the surging magical energy in his body without restraint, as if he would launch an attack in the next second. In such a tense atmosphere, even the other 3 council members couldn't help but show a strong sense of vigilance, let alone the lords who came to handle matters. They did not expect the other party to display such unparalleled aggressiveness in their first official meeting. Furthermore, the power he wielded was far beyond their expectations. Depressing. After a full 10 minutes, Venus, the ruler of queens, finally couldn't help but comfort him. Dear Zhang, I can understand your anger, but please don't forget that this is the council. We should first solve the problem through negotiation and not fight to the death like gladiators in the arena. That's right. It's a civilized society now. Negotiation is the only way to solve the problem. If you have any dissatisfaction, feel free to say it. We can help you. Quentin, the ruler of Manhattan, also helped. Haha, sorry. I'm afraid our values are a little different. In my eyes, violence will always solve all problems. If it can't be solved, it only means that you are not violent enough. Now answer me. Who is involved in the current chaotic situation in Brooklyn? Who has overstepped their boundaries? Zhang Cheng didn't have the slightest intention to ease up. He narrowed his eyes and issued an ultimatum. He was here today to establish his authority. Only by fully displaying his strength could he avoid future troubles. Most normal people might occasionally tease the nice guys around them, but they would never provoke a bad-tempered lunatic. Are you questioning us? Brenda, who had always been arrogant, obviously couldn't stand such an attitude. A trace of coldness appeared on his pale face. However, Zhang Cheng nodded indifferently. That's right. If I don't get a satisfactory answer today, I will cut off one of your arms. Arrogant. Brenda stood up suddenly, stirring up a red mist of blood. His entire body rushed forward at a speed that was almost indiscernible to the naked eye. But the moment he reached out to grab his neck, he suddenly realized that Zhang Cheng had disappeared into thin air. The next second, puff! Dazzling red blood splattered everywhere. His right arm drew a beautiful parabola in the air and fell onto the table with a thud. Shocking. Confusion. Fear. No one in the conference room knew what had just happened. The first arm. You can scram now. Remember, if there's a next time, I'll dig out your heart and soak it in holy water, Zhang Cheng said as he took out a piece of tissue and gently wiped the chipped black greatsword in his hand. Needless to say, he had just used the 9th circle spell that the sorcerers of the Farron continent love the most. Time stop. I swear, you will regret what you did today. Brenda's eyes were bloodshot. She didn't even dare to pick up her arm. She quickly turned into a cloud of mist and passed through the wall, disappearing without a trace. In just a few seconds, he realized that he was no match for the young man in front of him. At the very least, he had no chance of winning until he figured out why his arm was chopped off without any warning. Zhang Cheng only smiled in disdain at the words of a stray dog. He then placed the weapon that originally belonged to the god of war, Tempest, on the table and asked the remaining 2 counselors softly, "So, what do you think? Do you want to give me a satisfactory answer or leave your arm behind?" "What kind of answer would satisfy you?" Quentin asked, suppressing his anger. As the oldest counselor in New York's secondary council, he had never been threatened like this before. Unfortunately, in the face of absolute power and violence, he had no other choice but to submit. "It's very simple. Hand over the lords under you who caused trouble for me and promise that they won't cause me any more trouble in the future. I hate dealing with endless trouble, so I prefer to solve the problem at the root," Zhang Cheng explained with a smile. "All right, 3 days later, I will hand over all the people involved to you." Quentin was clearly about to go crazy. He gritted his teeth and gave an affirmative answer. It was foreseeable that after this incident, his status in New York's underworld would plummet. After all, no lord would be willing to pledge loyalty to a piece of trash who couldn't even protect his own subordinates. In contrast, Venus's reaction was much calmer. "No problem. If I go down and find anyone related to this incident, You'll see them in 24 hours. Very good. Then today's meeting will end here. I still have a huge mess to clean up. Oh, I almost forgot to remind you. Don't try to fool me, or the consequences will be severe. After saying these threatening words, Zhang Cheng put away his two-handed greatsword and left the office with his subordinates. They returned to Brooklyn and began to clean up the people who dared to take advantage of the chaos to break the rules, street by street. The punishment was simple. They were all put to death, regardless of the crime or motive. Under this crazy and brutal suppression, the situation was completely stabilized in less than a week. To be exact, the security environment was 10 times better than before. Even gangsters and gang members didn't dare to rob at night for fear of accidentally dying on the streets. Of course, as a price, 2,000 people were disguised as accidents by the cleaners, and hundreds of people went missing. If it wasn't for the Senate using many government agencies, including the police, FBI, City Hall, and hospitals, the media of the United States of America would have exploded. Through this iron fist, the entire underworld of North America clearly realized how terrifying the new New York senator was. He didn't take human lives seriously. Some people who had nothing better to do even gave him a nickname, Bloody Shaman King. With the entire Brooklyn under his control, Zhang Cheng, who had been busy all this time, could finally relax a little. He began to recruit lords to strengthen his forces, and at the same time, prepared to participate in the upcoming auction. This state lasted until Christmas Eve, when an interesting piece of news disrupted his peaceful life. Sir, in the restaurant that used to belong to the Desire Witch, Catherine, a young lady claimed to be your woman. The pollman reported in a low voice with a strange expression. As one of the first people to follow Zhang Cheng, he had completely bid farewell to his past humble identity and exuded a mature and steady aura. My woman, Zhang Cheng raised his eyebrows in surprise. Chapter 538. Catherine's Kiss restaurant was the first place Zhang Cheng stayed after transmigrating. It was also the place where he first came into contact with supernatural powers. Although the entire underground world of Brooklyn had been turned upside down recently, this restaurant had not changed much. It still maintained its original appearance. There were not many customers, and most of them were white-collar workers who worked nearby. The only difference was that its original owner, the Desire Witch Catherine, had died in the Fragment World. Under normal circumstances, it should have returned to the hands of the Parliament, and then handed over to the next lord who ruled this area. But the interesting thing was that there was now a young lady who claimed to be the new senator's woman, who occupied this place and stuffed all the profits in her own pocket. Zhang Cheng really wanted to see who it was that actually dared to use his name to swindle others after being brutally suppressed. After passing through the dark and gloomy underground passage, he quickly came to the familiar underground bar. As it had been hit hard twice, it looked a little deserted. There were less than 20 people drinking and chatting. It was unknown whether the originally burly bartender had died in the Fragment World or had found a place to hide. Instead, there was a non-mainstream lady in her early 20s with exaggerated smoky makeup. There were large tattoos on her exposed arms and back. What would you like to drink? The new bartender obviously did not know Zhang Cheng. She raised her chin and took the initiative to ask. No, thank you. I'm afraid there are no drinks I like here. Moreover, I'm here to look for someone, not to drink. Oh, who are you looking for? Of course it's the old. Before Zhang Cheng could finish speaking, he suddenly heard an ear-piercing scream from the room behind him. The non-mainstream bartender's expression changed drastically. She took out a Remington shotgun from under the bar counter and rushed out. The guests in the hall seemed to be used to it and continued to do what they were doing. Such a strange scene made Zhang Cheng frown subconsciously. In the end, he still chose to follow behind. After a while, he saw a half-naked, muscular black man in a dark corner, holding a torn piece of clothing in his hand. A few meters away, there was a young girl squatting on the ground with her hands covering her private parts. Needless to say, this was the scene of an attempted rape. The non-mainstream bartender who rushed over pointed his gun at the brawny man's head and roared, "Get lost. Stay away from my sister. Otherwise, I'll break your head." "Ha ha! Break my head? Are you sure this toy can hurt me? Accompanied by unbridled laughter, the black man abruptly took a few steps forward, revealing an extremely ugly face. Coincidentally, Zhang Cheng knew the owner of this face. The other party was none other than Frank, who bullied the weak and feared the strong and tried to collect protection fees from him. F***CK. Go to hell. Dirty black ghost. The non-mainstream bartender was no doubt hot-tempered. He pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang! Bang! After 2 gunshots, Frank flew into the air and landed heavily on the ground. Within 20 meters, the terrifying impact of the shotgun was unparalleled. Even an elephant would have to lie down obediently if it was hit. However, after a few seconds, the black-haired gorilla got up shakily from the ground. The bullet hole on his head healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even a small steel ball was squeezed out. Unable to contain his anger, he snatched the shotgun and snapped it in 2. He grabbed the female bartender's slender neck and cursed. B***TCH. You actually dared to shoot me. Let go of me. You, human scum. Human scum? Fine. I'll be a human scum today. Frank laughed nastily and tore off the female bartender's clothes. He used his other hand to pinch her 2 meatballs, leaving a large bruise in the blink of an eye. Seeing that the plot was beginning to develop in a restricted direction, Zhang Cheng had no choice but to slowly walk out from the darkness. He teased in a playful tone, Yo, long time no see. Isn't this the supreme overlord of the bar, Sir Frank? Why, you've been unable to collect protection fees recently and have fallen to venting your anger on women. Who is it? Frank couldn't care less about continuing to take advantage of the woman in his hands. He quickly turned around. Why, you don't recognize me. Zhang Cheng walked a few steps towards the light source. Instantly, the ferocious expression on Frank's face disappeared. It was replaced by a deep sense of fear. His whole body trembled uncontrollably. He would never forget this young Asian face. He would also never forget the pain of lingering on the edge of death for a month. If his back was not sealed, he would definitely turn around and run. Looks like you recognize me. Zhang Cheng was undoubtedly very satisfied with this dumb black eye's reaction. He raised his hand and snapped his fingers lightly. Pa! A blinding white arc of electricity hit the target's chest, emitting a pungent, burnt smell. Don't kill me, Frank cried as he knelt down and begged. Even though the electric shock was not strong, it made him involuntarily associate it with pain and death. Looking at this typical lazy, shameless, low IQ black guy who liked to bully the weak, Zhang Cheng sneered and asked, Give me a reason not to kill you. Tell me, other than making trash, what other value do you have in your existence? I can work for you, no matter what it is. As long as you give the order, I promise I will do it without hesitation. I'm sorry, I'm not a waste recycling station. I don't need trash. After saying that, Zhang Cheng's fingertips once again shot out a white arc of electricity, burning Frank into a black carbonized substance on the spot. Accompanied by an even more pungent burnt smell, the non-mainstream female bartender finally came back to her senses. She carefully asked, Who are you? Why are you helping us? I should be the one asking this question. Who are you? Why are you being targeted by Frank? You should know that he's not like those hooligans on the streets who are only interested in over 100,000 USD. Zhang Cheng said as he circled around to look at the 2 young sisters. Mister, don't you recognize me? The younger sister, who had been hiding in the corner without saying a word, slowly stood up, revealing a face that was 80 to 90% similar to that of the desire witch, Catherine. You are Elizabeth? Even though they had only met once, Zhang Cheng still recognized this girl who had once made him feel a strong desire to possess her. But ever since he obtained the psionic ability, he was able to face his own desires and not fall into a state of losing control. That's right. It's me. Thank God. You finally appeared. Chapter 539. 15 minutes later, Elizabeth's agitated emotions finally calmed down. She changed into a few relatively low-profile clothes from Catherine's wardrobe and returned to a relatively secluded private room in the underground bar. The female bartender, who had thick smoky makeup, went to the bar counter and made 3 low-alcohol cocktails. She sat quietly by the side without saying a word. Judging from the calm expression on her face, she did not seem to care much about the violation she had just suffered. She drank the cocktail in her glass while looking at Zhang Cheng curiously. The silent atmosphere lasted for about 2 to 3 minutes before Elizabeth finally could not help but ask, "Is my grandmother really dead like the rumors say?" "Yes." Zhang Cheng did not try to hide it and nodded gently. "I see. No wonder they dare to do this to me." The girl subconsciously clenched her fists as if she had thought of something bad. "What do you mean? Who are they referring to? What do they do to you?" Although Zhang Cheng could use his psionic ability to directly read the other party's thoughts and memories, he did not intend to do so. If he used his psionic ability in similar situations, it would not take long for him to become a complete psychopath, just like the mind flayers in the Pharaon world, who would see other creatures other than himself as slaves and food. Elizabeth obviously did not know that she had just escaped a disaster. She smiled bitterly and explained, "It's about custody and inheritance. First of all, my grandmother wrote a will some time ago, and I am the only heir to this will. Although she's dead now, from a legal point of view, she can only be said to be missing. She can only be considered dead after 7 years. So, not only do I not get a single cent now, even my monthly allowance is gone. I can't support myself at all. Secondly, due to my grandmother's sudden disappearance, I lost my legal guardian. The Child Protection Agency wants to send me back to my original foster family. What's more frightening is that many people have evil ideas after knowing that I am the heir to a large fortune. Whether it's the so-called parents or Frank, they all want a large fortune from me. There is even a gang leader who threatened to arrest me and make me a prostitute if I don't hand over $5 million in cash within a month. So, you pretended to be my woman to frighten those people with evil intentions?" Zhang Cheng raised his eyebrows in surprise. He did not expect that the accident in the fragment world would bring such a terrible disaster to the girl in front of him. He also did not expect that she would use such a despicable method first. Not to mention that there were all kinds of strange superpowers in the underground world. Even ordinary people with some brains would not believe it easily. "I have no choice. I don't know much about the underground world. You're the only big shot that my grandmother treats seriously. But unfortunately, I couldn't fool those bastards in the end. Also, I'm at my wit's end. No matter how you want to deal with me, I don't care. In any case, falling into your hands is always better than falling into the hands of those scumbags." After saying that, Elizabeth wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and smiled. Looking at the girl's dark blue eyes, Zhang Cheng hesitated for a moment before he smiled and said, "Tell me, do you want to integrate into the underground world and become one of them? Or do you want to return to the life of an ordinary person? Is there a difference?" Elizabeth shrugged and asked. Zhang Cheng calmly extended 2 fingers and said, "The difference is 2 completely different lives. If you choose the latter, I will help you get Catherine's inheritance, but I will also delete the information about the underground world in your mind. If you choose the former, you must first find a way to awaken the witch's bloodline and become a superpower user. Now tell me, what is your choice?" "I choose the first one." Elizabeth did not hesitate at all and gave a straightforward answer. She had seen the terrifying power that Catherine, the Witch of Desire, could inadvertently unleash. She was also tired of her weak and powerless self. In her heart, she yearned to become stronger and take control of her own fate. "Oh, do you know how a witch's bloodline is awakened?" Zhang Cheng had a playful expression on his face. Witches were not real wizards who master magical power through learning and training. They were more like warlocks in the Pharaon continent. According to legend, the earliest witches were born from mixed-blood female babies after mating with demons from hell. Then, with generations of reproduction, they gradually integrated into the human world. For this reason, the Roman Curia, which was controlled by heaven in the Middle Ages, launched a witch hunting campaign. Many ordinary women were innocently implicated. "I know. Grandmother told me that if a witch wants to awaken her power, she has to find a real male wizard and sleep with him. Then, she can awaken herself by absorbing magical power. Elizabeth bit her lower lip and repeated what Catherine had said. Noticing the shyness in the girl's eyes, Zhang Cheng could not help but tease. So, you have found your target? Yes, I have found it. Just as he finished his words, Elizabeth pounced on Zhang Cheng without warning and hugged his neck before kissing him fiercely. Her actions were so wild that it was completely unlike her usual gentle and ladylike image. After a full minute, the two of them slowly separated. "You are my target." The girl licked her slightly numb lips and announced loudly, "Well, it seems like I have to bid farewell to my blissful single life." Zhang Cheng took out a piece of tissue and wiped the red lipstick mark left behind by the passionate kiss. After all, Catherine was dead. He did not have to worry about his feelings and desires being used by the other party. He planned to take the opportunity to enjoy a normal love life. In fact, in this world, other than a few members of the Supreme Council and the monsters created by the gods to guard the seal, there was nothing that could pose a real threat to him. It was time to release his long-suppressed nature. "You admit that I'm your girlfriend?" Elizabeth covered her mouth with a face full of surprise. "Why not? From the first time we met, we had a good impression of each other. It would be good to try to get along for a while. As for the issue of inheritance and custody, don't worry, I will send someone to solve it." With that, Zhang Cheng took out his phone and dialed one of the numbers. But before the other side could connect, Elizabeth rushed over and hugged his waist tightly. She muttered to herself, "Damn it, I knew that you were just pretending to be indifferent." Chapter 540. Dangerous Person. Elizabeth clearly didn't know her grandmother's true colors and widened her eyes in shock. "That's right. Do you know how old she is? Do you know how she maintains her youthful and beautiful appearance?" Zhang Cheng asked several questions with a faint smile. The girl hesitated for a moment and quickly shook her head. "I don't know." In her eyes, her grandmother had always been full of mystery and rarely talked about the underground world and her duties. "From what I know, Catherine is already 270 years old. She used a terrifying magic ritual to forcibly occupy the body of her descendant to ensure that she would never grow old and die." Zhang Cheng explained meaningfully. "Occupy the body?" Elizabeth seemed to understand something, and her whole body trembled. "I can't be." Zhang Cheng nodded lightly. "That's right. You're the new body that she chose. Otherwise, why do you think a selfish person like her would suddenly choose to adopt you and even make a will for you to inherit all her assets? Although the truth is a bit cruel, you should understand that the underground world is not as safe as the world of ordinary people. It is full of danger and darkness." "Oh my God." The girl was obviously frightened. Her whole body trembled, and her two hands hugged even tighter. Just when Zhang Cheng wanted to say something, the Pullman's panting voice finally came from the other side of the phone. I'm sorry. Sir, I didn't hear the phone ring just now. May I know what your orders are?" "Don't tell me you were coincidentally doing strenuous exercise with the new secretary?" Zhang Cheng raised his eyebrows and questioned. "No, absolutely not. I just want to check the accounts and prepare for the tax filing in February," the Pullman hurriedly explained. Fortunately, Zhang Cheng didn't have the intention to pursue the matter and directly changed the topic. "All right, I'll believe you this time. Immediately contact the cleaners and have them create a death accident for the desire which Catherine. Also, help me find a guardian for her granddaughter, Elizabeth. Remember, do it cleanly. I don't want any trouble in the future." "Elizabeth? Isn't this the same as claiming to be?" The Pullman was halfway through his sentence when he suddenly realized something. He immediately stopped and promised without hesitation, "Got it. Don't worry. You'll see the result in 4 hours at most." "I hope so." After saying this, Zhang Cheng hung up the phone and dialed another number. In just 2 to 3 seconds, Jesse Livermore's playful voice could be heard. "Hey, boss. What's the matter? I need your ability to torture a few people. Let them collapse and die in pain and despair." Zhang Cheng didn't waste any time and gave the mission concisely. As the knowledge and power in his hands increased, he had strengthened 3 subordinates who had proven their loyalty. He didn't need to do everything himself. He only needed to give orders. Looks like I'm starting to pity these guys. Please give me a list." I swear they'll experience the feeling of living a life worse than death. Jesse Livermore's tone revealed a hint of excitement. Ever since this slightly neurotic woman obtained part of the knowledge of Farron Continent's necromancers, she had devoted herself to the research of creating powerful living corpses and spirits. She was just worried that she couldn't find enough unlucky people to experiment with. Now that she was authorized to openly capture and torture ordinary people, she almost jumped in joy. A list? I almost forgot. Zhang Cheng patted his head lightly and lowered his head to ask the girl who was clinging to his chest, "What's the name of your scumbag foster parents? And the gang leader? Where do they live? I can lead the way." The non-mainstream female bartender who had been silent all this time suddenly suggested. "You are? Her name is Aisha. She used to live with me in hell. At the same time, she's the only sister who really cares about me and is willing to sacrifice everything for me," Elizabeth quickly introduced. It was obvious that she was very close to Aisha, especially when the non-mainstream bartender rushed out with a gun when they were in danger just now. She didn't hesitate even when she knew that she was going to face a monster with superpowers. People would only subconsciously ignore danger when they were protecting their most important loved ones. "Hello, I'm Zhang Cheng. Nice to meet you." Zhang Cheng smiled and bowed slightly. Although he had already embraced the darkness and would do anything to pursue power and immortality, he didn't dislike those who sacrificed themselves for others. He even admired them. "Thank you. To be honest, I never dreamed that I would come into contact with these supernatural forces one day, let alone have the chance to meet someone as important as you." Aisha casually shrugged her shoulders. She didn't show too much inferiority, or did she try to close the distance? It was as if she was greeting an ordinary friend that she had just met. Zhang Cheng was used to people looking at him with respect, hatred, and fear. He obviously liked this kind of attitude more. He took the initiative to invite her. Then, "Are you interested in playing a game of revenge?" "A game of revenge?" Aisha blinked her eyes in confusion. "Yes, I will give you a very powerful helper. Within 24 hours, you can use all kinds of methods to torture, and kill your enemies. You don't have to worry about being discovered by the police or being retaliated against. However, in order to increase the difficulty in gameplay, you have to use your brain. You have to make each of your enemies feel extreme pain, and you can't repeat the methods that you have used before." Zhang Cheng said a creepy suggestion without changing his expression. Perhaps in the eyes of adults, this was a real devil. But Aisha, who was in her early 20s and full of rebellious spirit, immediately shouted excitedly, "Cool! My dear Zhang, I have to admit, you are an interesting and charming guy. What are you waiting for? I can't wait to start accepting the challenge." "Hold on." Zhang Cheng picked up the phone again and ordered Jesse Livermore, who had been waiting on the other side for a long time, drive to Catherine's Kiss restaurant immediately. "Remember to bring your little cuties. They may be needed in the next game." "Okay, I'll be there right away. Be careful. Don't scare anyone. You have to understand that the cleaning operation a few days ago has made many people nervous." "Haha, let them be nervous. We are now the most powerful Brooklyn in the whole of New York. I heard that Quentin and Senator Venus have given strict orders not to have any conflicts with us. As for Brenda, who lost an arm, he has long become a laughing stock. It won't be long before his position will be replaced by someone else." Jesse Livermore laughed as he climbed into the brand-new fully enclosed refrigerated truck. The huge trailers behind were densely packed with all kinds of strange-looking living corpses and undead, constantly emitting a gloomy and terrifying aura. Please remember the domain name of this book.com. Wonderful book mobile version website.com. Chapter 541. 40 minutes later, in a dark and damp alley in Queens, a fat black couple was naked. They were hung upside down on the outside of fire escape that was more than 10 meters high. Their bodies were trembling nonstop. Not far from the fire escape, there was a large group of spirits without feet floating in the air. Their hollow eyes were filled with ferocious light, as if they could rush up and tear them to pieces at any time. Without a doubt, this black couple was Elizabeth and Aisha's adoptive parents. Not only did they take advantage of the loopholes in the social welfare system to receive government subsidies by adopting orphans, but they also forced the adopted children to work. If they didn't work, they wouldn't have food to eat. Moreover, these jobs included many unsightly transactions. They had even drugged some beautiful boys and girls and then sold them to pimps in exchange for green banknotes. This simply refreshed Zhang Cheng's worldview. So, should we kill these two scumbags now? Or should we let them feel the fear for a while longer? Jessie Livermore sat in the driver's seat and asked her young sister in the back seat. Send them to hell. Aisha took a deep puff of the cigarette in her hand and exhaled a cloud of white smoke. Okay. Without any hesitation, Jessie removed the restraints on the spirits. Instantly, silver, translucent shadows swarmed toward the fat black couple crazily. In the blink of an eye, their souls were dragged out and torn into pieces while they were still alive. Looking at the twitching bodies hanging on the fire escape, Zhang Cheng asked without turning his head, "Who's next?" Aisha hesitated for a moment and quickly replied, "Chauncey. He's the gang leader of the few streets behind us. He once locked me up and abused me for 3 days. He also threatened Elizabeth that if she didn't hand over $5 million, he would make her stand on the street." "Oh, $5 million? His appetite isn't small. How do you plan to deal with this guy?" Zhang Cheng's eyes flashed with a cold and cruel light. I haven't thought about it yet. Do you have any suggestions?" Aisha licked her lips subconsciously. As an ordinary person, she finally realized how strange and dangerous the underground world was. People with superpowers could easily make their targets die unknowingly. Even the police and the FBI could do nothing about it. Zhang Cheng rubbed his chin and searched his memory. Then he smirked and said in a playful tone, "Have you seen the movie Resident Evil that was released last year?" "Of course. I like this movie, and I like the female lead even more." Aisha nodded gently, apparently not understanding the hint in his words. But just because she didn't understand, it didn't mean that Jessie Livermore didn't. The slightly neurotic woman revealed a rare expression of fear and carefully probed, "Boss, don't tell me you wanna—" "Ha, that was right. You have my permission to use that. Remember, don't lose control. Otherwise, Resident Evil will really happen in New York." After saying that, Zhang Cheng gave his subordinate a look that said, "You know what I'm talking about." Then, he cracked open his mouth and revealed a chilling smile. What are you talking about? Why can't I understand a single word?" Elizabeth blinked innocently. I think it's better if you don't know." Jessie hurriedly wiped the sweat off his forehead and opened the password-protected box with trembling hands. Then, he took out a small bottle of strange, purplish liquid. This thing was nothing else but the magical plague that had been improved countless times. For a natural necromancer, there was nothing that could enhance their strength better than this. But the problem was, she didn't have the courage to use such a dangerous thing. She was afraid that it would really create the apocalyptic scene in the movie. At the same time, in a dark basement a few streets away, a bare-chested, strong black man did not notice the approaching danger at all. While hugging a sexy girl, he scolded loudly, "You idiots! Keep your spirits up for the time being. Suck less flour. Be sure to keep an eye on Elizabeth and Aisha, these two bitches. They are now a walking treasury. Don't worry, Changshi, they can't run away." Another black man grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Hee. After this business deal is done, should I capture these two girls and let my brothers have some fun too? I still remember how Aisha struggled and cried under our lower bodies 2 years ago. This time, with Elizabeth, just thinking about it makes me excited. Yes. After having some fun, we'll drag them to the streets. Make some exciting advertisements like Sisters, *****. It will definitely attract a lot of rich perverts. For black men who lived at the lowest level of American society, women had always been a tool to vent their lust and accumulate wealth. Once they were tired of playing with them, they would sell them. Some of them would even pimp for their own girlfriends without any sense of shame. In fact, most black girls were not most afraid of white gangs and police, but their own male compatriots. Any successful black person, regardless of gender, would immediately move out of the black community. This was because they knew that the place where their compatriots gathered was the most dangerous area in the country. The crime rate there was twice as high as other places. Just as Chauncey began to imagine how he would spend his life after getting $5 million, a loud bang suddenly came from the basement door. "Who is it?" He stood up abruptly and pulled out the pistol behind his waist. His eyes revealed his nervousness. Bang! 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 Unfortunately, there was no response from anyone outside the door. Instead, the banging on the door became louder and more frequent. The entire door frame even began to loosen slightly. F***CK. Don't just stand there. Take out all your weapons. Give me a gun. Me too. Such a strange situation not only made Chauncey panic, but his men also panicked. The scantily clad girls could not help but let out ear-piercing screams. Before the guns were distributed to everyone, the door, which was not very sturdy to begin with, was finally knocked open with a bang. 7 or 8 ferocious-looking monsters rushed in from the passageway, looking like zombies in movies. The one in the front pounced directly and pressed an unlucky guy to the ground. He opened his mouth and bit down, tearing off a large piece of flesh on the spot. "No, help me. I don't want to die. **T. What the hell is this? Fire! Fire!" Chauncey was completely frightened by the bloody scene in front of him. He roared and pulled the trigger. For a moment, the gunshots were loud, and the pungent smell of gunpowder filled the air. Many zombies fell to the ground under the intense firepower. However, there were still 1 or 2 that broke through the blockade and rushed into the crowd to bite them. Please remember the domain name of this book.com. Wonderful book mobile version website.com. Chapter 542. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Where did these monsters come from? Is the end of the world coming? After a fierce battle, Chauncey finally escaped from the basement, but the price was the death of all his men and women. Now he was running along the alley to where there were more people, and at the same time, he kept calling 911, trying to ask the police for help. He had to admit that this scene was a bit ironic, but he couldn't care so much at the moment. He just wanted to save his life. Unfortunately, before he could run halfway, a pale-skinned, 2.5-meter-tall giant descended from the sky and blocked his path with a boom. The claws on his right hand were like razor blades, and it was obvious that something was wrong at first glance. Oh no, no, no. Chauncey completely collapsed. He raised the shotgun in his hand and shot wildly. 8 bullets were used up, but it didn't cause any damage to the giant. In desperation, the only thing he could do was to retreat. But after retreating for about 30 meters, the previous group of zombies also chased after him, and this unlucky guy was in the middle. Pain, despair. This simple-minded black man finally realized that he was about to die, and he was going to be killed in the most terrible way. When he thought of the bloody scene where his men were thrown to the ground and eaten, he couldn't help but feel endless fear. Finally, he gritted his teeth and rushed toward the giant in front of him. After all, in his understanding, it was better to die quickly than to be dismembered alive. At least the latter could reduce a lot of unnecessary pain. But the moment he was about to reach the giant, instead of choosing to kill him, the giant grabbed his calf, lifted him upside down, and gently threw him into the group of zombies. No! With a miserable scream, Chauncey drew a parabola in the air and fell in the middle of the group of zombies with a bang. A zombie with bullet holes all over its body didn't say a word. It immediately pounced forward and bit the arm, tearing off a large piece of flesh in an instant. The other zombies didn't want to be left behind. They all lay down and began to tear the body of this unlucky guy. Interestingly enough, none of them touched the fatal parts. Instead, one of the female corpses ate the black man's lower body like it was a sausage. No matter who it is, please, I beg you, kill me. Let me die. Chauncey had completely given up hope of living. He just wanted to die quickly so that he could end this terrible pain and torture. Just as the dark red blood began to spread to both sides of the road, 3 women and a man suddenly appeared in his line of sight. One of the women, with heavy smoky makeup, looked a little familiar. Obviously, these four people were the ones who had planned all of this from the sidelines. Zhang Qing asked without changing his expression as he admired Hei's expression, "What do you think? My suggestion isn't bad, right? Fear, pain, despair, and death." In a short span of 10 minutes, he experienced an intense stimulation that many people would never experience in their entire lives. If it wasn't for the fact that I had to control the range of its spread, I could even make him wander between gaining and losing hope, eventually leading to a complete mental breakdown. Very scary, but he deserved it. Aisha's eyes shone with relief and joy. For any woman, being violated was an indescribable nightmare. Not to mention that she was imprisoned for 3 whole days and endured the abuse of Chauncey and his men day and night. It was already very strong that she didn't go crazy. It's all over. From now on, you can start a new life. We will become very rich and live a life of the upper class. Elizabeth quickly hugged her sister and comforted her in a low voice. "Don't worry, I'm fine. By the way, who has a gun? I'll kill him myself first. I have a shotgun here, but the recoil is a bit strong. You'd better be careful." As he said this, Zhang Cheng took out a mithril double-barreled shotgun from his magic waist bag that he had never used since he bought it. He also included 2 special bullets. He bought this thing from a dwarf in Treasure Bay when he went to Azeroth last time. As everyone knew, the dwarves only had one requirement for guns and cannons, and that was to have a large caliber and powerful enough to blast the enemy into the sky. "Oh my god, is this a gun used to hunt whales? Are you sure my shoulder and arm won't be broken after I use it?" Looking at the barrel that could fit a quail egg and the exaggerated special bullets, Aisha was stunned and her mouth was wide open. "No, I've added shock reduction magic runes to the gun. At most, your arm will be dislocated. There's no danger of fracture," Zhang Cheng assured her. It wasn't that he was confident in the gun made by the dwarves, but he was confident in the magic that he added. "Okay, if I break a bone, you have to pay for the medical expenses. My savings are only enough to call an ambulance." As the last word left her mouth, Aisha skillfully put the 2 bullets into the barrel. She stepped in front of her enemy, who was already unconscious, and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Boom, boom, F*CK. After 2 deafening explosions, Chauncey's entire upper body was gone. To be exact, he was blown into pieces by the terrifying, magically enhanced bullets. Aisha's face, neck, clothes, pants, and arms were all covered with these disgusting things. She couldn't help but curse. "Ha ha ha! Oh my god! You can now play the latest version of Saw without makeup." Elizabeth was the first to laugh. "Laugh again? Believe it or not, I'll give you a warm hug immediately. Also, I need to take a shower. Immediately. Now." Aisha rolled her eyes and threatened angrily. "Okay, I was wrong. Don't get excited. I'll take you to take a shower now." As soon as she heard that her good sister wanted to hug her, Elizabeth immediately raised her hands to surrender. She didn't want to be stained with those disgusting flesh and blood. After wiping the dwarven mithril double-barreled shotgun with a tissue, Aisha reluctantly handed it to Zhang Cheng. "Thanks. By the way, this chick is really hot. I'm a little reluctant to give it back to you. If you like it, keep it. I still have nearly 200 rounds of special bullets here. I'll give them to you together. You have to know that it's not easy to live in the underground world as an ordinary person. You have to have some self-defense weapons. This shotgun happens to be one of them." Not only did Zhang Cheng not take the shotgun, but he also gave a large box of high-explosive bullets made by the engineering dwarves from the Iron Furnace Fort. According to the description of the seller, Copperhammer, even if the trolls with powerful regeneration ability were hit, they would be half-crippled even if they didn't die. It also had special effects against ghost-type spiritual creatures. Of course, only he himself knew how much of this sentence was commercial propaganda and how much of it was true. Don't think that the dwarves were born simple and honest. On the contrary, the proportion of profiteers produced in their tribe was no less than that of humans. Please remember the domain name of this book.com. Wonderful book mobile version reading website.com. Chapter 543. Violet House was a comprehensive entertainment center that included bars, nightclubs, and hotels. Since it had only recently opened, it had been offering all kinds of discounts, attracting many rich local men and women, as well as tourists from all over the world. In addition to the good service, it always gave people an indescribable sense of relaxation and joy. Unknowingly, there was a long line outside the door. They had no idea that the beautiful feeling actually came from the huge magic gathering circles that were secretly engraved on the walls, floor, and ceiling during the renovation. To put it simply, every cubic meter of air here was rich in magic energy. After absorbing a large amount of it, it would stimulate the brain of an ordinary person and produce a sense of pleasure. Obviously, this was not some random place. It was the fully renovated fitness club, which was also the center of power for Zhang Cheng to rule the entire underworld of Brooklyn. Oh my God, don't tell me you opened this place. Aisha couldn't help but exclaim as she looked at the bustling scene outside through the window. She was originally a standard poor person who lived at the bottom of society, with a monthly income of no more than $2,000. The most luxurious place she had ever been to was Catherine's Kiss. Zhang Cheng smiled and shrugged as he replied, "Strictly speaking, it belongs to the New York Council. But as long as I'm not dead, no one can take it away from me. Let's go, don't waste time here. I don't want the police to see your clothes covered in blood and flesh. It's troublesome to deal with. *T. You damn rich people." Aisha's face showed a typical expression of envy and jealousy. Passing through the underground parking lot, Jesse Livermore parked the truck in an unknown corner. He then jumped down and said to the white young man who was guarding the place, "Send the car to Garage 4 for me. Remember, control your curiosity and don't open the trunk. Otherwise, you'll regret it." "Don't worry, I know the rules." The young man grinned, and the muscles all over his body quickly expanded. In the end, he turned into a small giant that was more than 2.5 meters tall. He lifted the truck with both hands and stuffed it into a very hidden place above his head. Instantly, there was the sound of an elevator from above, and the whole car was slowly lifted out of everyone's sight. Perhaps his sudden transformation reminded Elizabeth of Frank. She quickly held on her boyfriend's arm, trying to find a sense of security. "Don't be afraid. All the residents here are my subordinates. They won't dare to do anything to you." After comforting her softly, Zhang Cheng took out a key card and inserted it into the groove. He then led the way into the private elevator that went straight to the top floor. In the blink of an eye, the group arrived at a place that was almost completely isolated from the lower floors. Not long after he walked out of the elevator, Tracy, who was wearing a business suit, took the initiative to welcome him. She presented a financial report with both hands. "Sir, these are the funds that have been laundered in the past 2 months. Please take a look. Right now, we still have about $35 million in our vault, and we'll be able to use it all up in 3 months. Zhang Cheng glanced at the cash flow and losses in the account book and nodded with satisfaction. "Well done. You're becoming more and more professional, which makes me very happy. Also, you don't have to worry about the demon mark anymore. I've already solved it. Thank you very much. I swear that I will do my best to serve you in the future." Hearing that the demon wouldn't continue to pester her, Tracy was obviously relieved. Her face was filled with a smile, as if she had been reborn. At the same time, she secretly sized up the 2 unfamiliar faces beside her. When she saw Zhang Cheng holding Elizabeth's slender waist with one hand, her heart skipped a beat. A trace of undetectable vigilance and hostility flashed in her eyes. At the same time, Elizabeth, who had a keen sixth sense, also felt this hostility. She raised her head and looked into the other party's eyes. Fortunately, both of them were very restrained. After looking at each other for 3 seconds, the first confrontation ended. After Tracy turned and left, Elizabeth couldn't help but carefully ask, "Who is she? Your lover?" "Lover? Why would you have such a thought?" Zhang Cheng asked with a half-smile. "Look, when she looks at you, she's definitely not just a subordinate and boss, but also a mix of admiration. But don't worry, I don't mind if you have a few lovers outside, as long as you promise that I'm your real girlfriend." Elizabeth pretended to be generous and blinked her eyes. However, her little tricks were not even considered a beginner in front of the scheming former. Zhang Cheng directly shook his head and denied. No, we're not lovers, at least not now. Really? Elizabeth obviously didn't believe it. Really? To be exact, Tracy is still a virgin, so her soul was targeted by the demon. Well, it seems that you're a little more restrained than I thought. Oh, can you tell me, in your original imagination, what kind of person am I? Well, even if you're not a sex maniac who unscrupulously vents your desires, at least you're a flirtatious guy. After all, not many rich men are not lustful. This is common knowledge in the United States of America. The two of them chatted as they walked through the corridor and entered the innermost room, whereas Elsa, under Jesse's lead, went to the bathroom to wash off the sticky and smelly mixture of flesh and blood. At the same time, on a huge cruise ship docked in New York Harbor, countless staff were busy moving things completely sealed in metal boxes into the bottom cabin. As one of the members of the North American Supreme Council, Lafern was personally in charge to prevent accidents from happening to several of the most valuable goods, because it wouldn't be long before the annual auction was held on this ship. At that time, not only the lords and members of the North American region would come to participate, but the higher-ups of other regional councils would also occasionally appear. In particular, someone had already released the news that there would be dragon eggs in this auction. It was foreseeable that it would inevitably cause a lot of trouble. Perhaps even the arrogant ancient families would send representatives to bid. Just as Lafern began to think about whether there would be a bloody scene after the auction, the Shadow King, Lauren Corney, suddenly appeared in front of him out of thin air. She bent down and reported in a low voice, "Master, the Marcus family sent a direct descendant and wants to meet you immediately." The Marcus family? At this time? Lafern's eyes revealed two rays of light. Yes, I think they're probably here for her. Before Lauren could finish her words, Lafern waved his hand and said, "I know what these guys want to do. Bring them over. It just so happens that I have something that I need their help with." Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 544. A few minutes later, in the most luxuriously decorated guest room on the cruise ship, Lafern squinted his eyes and looked at the white man in his 40s standing in front of him. After a full minute, he pointed at the chair in front of him and said, "Have a seat. I didn't think that Virgil would be willing to send out his most beloved son and heir. Thank you very much. It's my honor to be able to meet you." The white man bowed deeply and then sat down gracefully. It was obvious that he had received strict etiquette training. His every move was perfect, like a textbook, full of the reserved and gentlemanly spirit advocated by the upper class of British nobles. "Tell me, Anthony, why did your father send you here at such a sensitive time?" Laffer didn't plan to beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "There are two things. Firstly, the Marcus family needs at least 2 dragon eggs, and I hope you can help us. Secondly, I would like to meet with the Eastern sorcerer who has recently risen to fame. I want to see if we can reach an agreement." The white man called Anthony did not waste any time and quickly expressed his intentions. After all, as the direct descendant of the second leader of the North American Supreme Council, Deathside's Rudolph Marcus, he had enough capital to get what he wanted through exchange and bargaining. In fact, although the United States of America had been promoting the so-called freedom, equality, and democracy, in reality, it had been implementing a strict hierarchy. No matter how rich the outsiders were, they couldn't enter the tightly guarded circle. By the same logic, a similar situation existed in the underground world. Through marriage, a few families that took root in this land were closely united. Although it didn't affect the Supreme Council, it was definitely not a problem to control the Secondary Council. Lafern was undoubtedly very clear about the huge influence behind the Marcus family. He subconsciously frowned and pondered for a moment. Soon, he gently knocked on the table and replied, "All the members of the Supreme Council know the number of dragon eggs. I can't help you in this regard, but I can arrange a meeting with Zhang Jian. But if I remember correctly, your family doesn't have any female members of the right age to marry, right?" "No, there's still an illegitimate daughter." An awkward smile appeared on Anthony's face. "Oh, illegitimate daughter. Whose is it?" Lafren showed a rare, gossipy expression. As far as he knew, in order to preserve the magical talent of their descendants, those big families would often deliberately choose their partners for marriage and childbirth. As for illegitimate children and illegitimate children, they usually didn't exist. Even if they were accidentally born, they would be carefully hidden. They wouldn't be recognized and wouldn't be known by the outside world. Mine, that was a mistake I made when I was young. She's 17 years old now and is studying magic at a wizard academy. Although her talent is a little unsatisfactory, it's enough for a marriage alliance. Anthony didn't try to hide anything and chose to admit it directly. Although this daughter of his made him feel a little embarrassed, since she was going to be used for the marriage alliance, it would be exposed sooner or later. It was better to act a little more carefree. Unbelievable, but it sounds like a good story, and we'll talk about this beautiful mistake next time we have time. Other than that, don't blame me for not reminding you that Zhang isn't a small fry that can be easily manipulated. On the contrary, he has wisdom and ambition that doesn't match his age, and he's extremely dangerous. You'll never know what kind of crazy decision he'll make in a critical moment. When he said this, Lafren's tone was full of seriousness and warning. Don't worry. You should know that the Marcus family follows a consistent strategy, and we won't easily offend any rising stars. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. We owe you a favor this time. Anthony got up and was about to leave. But before he could bow, Lafren immediately interrupted him. Wait, I have something I need your help with. Of course. Please. Anthony was stunned for a moment, but then he nodded without hesitation. I have a stone tablet here that was worshipped in the Temple of Poseidon in ancient Greece. It said that it recorded the location where Atlantis sunk. Your family seems to have a lot of talents in this field. Help me translate it. As he said this, Lafren took out an ancient stone tablet that was engraved with strange words and symbols from a password-protected box beside him. Most of the words on the tablet had been blurred due to the passage of time. Only the portrait of Poseidon, holding a trident in the middle, was still vivid. This is... Anthony obviously recognized the origin of the stone tablet, and his eyes widened in shock. Yes, it's the will left behind by the last survivor of Atlantis. Don't ask me where I got it. I won't tell you. And don't try to steal it, because you and your family can't afford it. I understand, but I'm afraid it'll take a long time to translate such an ancient thing. Don't worry, I have plenty of time. Just as Anthony walked down the deck of the cruise ship, an old man with white hair and beard was flipping through the information sent by his subordinates in the office of the Magic Realm, where the Wizard Academy was located. About 2 or 3 minutes later, he pushed up his glasses and asked, "Are you sure this Easterner has mastered a magic system that we don't understand?" "Yes, Grand Wizard. I've observed him for a long time, and the magic runes and spells he uses are completely different from ours. And not long ago, he chopped off Brenda's arm during a conflict. I couldn't see his movements at all, and the whole process seemed to have been completed in an instant." Venus explained calmly. Ever since she personally experienced Zhang Cheng's terrifying ability, she took the initiative to come to this place where she had once studied and lived, hoping to use the power of the Wizard Association to decipher the mystery. "You mean teleportation?" The old man who was called the Grand Wizard raised his head, and a hint of curiosity appeared on his wrinkled face. "No, it's not just teleportation. It's more like... Venus desperately searched her brain, trying to find an accurate adjective. But before she could find it, the Grand Wizard smiled and added, "It's more like time stopped, right?" When Venus heard this, her eyes lit up, and she nodded desperately. "Yes. Time stopped. It's like he controlled time. When everyone was unable to move, when they couldn't sense anything, he chopped off Brenda's arm. Do you think this kind of power or magic really exists?" "I'm not sure. At least I haven't seen it. Maybe I should take some time to go to New York and get to know this mysterious young man from the East." Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 545. As the Christmas holiday drew closer, the relationship between Zhang Cheng and Elizabeth quickly warmed up and even developed to the point of living together. However, In order to ensure that they could maximize the amount of magic energy on the first night, the two were very restrained and did not break through the last line of defense. But other than the last step, they had done everything they could. Because the power in the witch's blood was easily affected by the moon's gravity, it was best to complete the transformation from a young girl to a woman during the full moon. In addition, Aisha, who had completed her revenge, also returned to Catherine's Kiss restaurant and continued to work as a bartender in the underground bar as a temporary manager. She was responsible for maintaining the basic order and tax collection of the territory before the new lord took office. The salary was also good, more than $8,000 per month on the surface and $10,000 in cash as extra income. It was only the end of 2003, and the United States was still enjoying the unprecedented prosperity brought by the collapse of the Soviet Union. Although the 9/11 incident cast a shadow over the future of the superpower, the dollar was still the world's only currency, and its purchasing power was definitely not in the state of severe inflation 10 years later. Aisha was very satisfied with this job, and she could also talk face-to-face with some of the unusual creatures that only appeared in fairy tales and folklore, such as vampires, werewolves, elves, fairies, and so on. As for the safety, she did not care at all. Anyway, it could not be worse than the black neighborhood where she lived before. Although they suffered unimaginable suffering and torture in their childhood, the two young sisters, who were not blood-related, still embarked on a good life path. They did not degenerate into prostitutes who sold their bodies for a living, and they did not indulge in hallucinogens all day long to numb themselves. Just when Zhang Cheng began to gradually enjoy this ordinary life, a phone call disrupted the peace. The phone call was not from anyone else, but from his mother in name. The content was also very simple: to attend the company's annual meeting and to celebrate the huge profits generated by the two new products in the market. Since the first batch of Peace Bloom was harvested, the ambitious Zhang Ji immediately ordered the company's R&D department to create a brew drink and a skin cream in less than 3 days. After drinking the former, not only could it soothe one's emotions and make one quickly enter a deep sleep, but could also relieve depression, reduce blood pressure, and blood lipids. The effect was very obvious, and it was definitely not comparable to those fake health products. As for the latter, it had a stronger healing effect than any skin cream on the market. Whether it was scars, spots, or acne, as long as it was applied continuously for 3 to 4 days, it would immediately disappear completely, allowing the skin to temporarily return to its youthful state. Due to a certain amount of advertising in advance, the above two products had only been on sale for 1.5 months, and there was a serious shortage of stock. He guessed that her request to meet this time was most likely to discuss the issue of increasing the number of plants planted. After all, the patent of this magical white flower was still in the hands of a biological laboratory called Light of the Stars, but this laboratory had never really existed. Even the name of the other partner on the contract was fake. His real identity was a shapeshifter from the underground world. After completing his work, he returned to the primitive tribes in Africa. In desperation, Zhang Cheng had to change into an expensive handmade suit and left home 3 days before Christmas Eve. He drove a sports car alone to the annual meeting. As soon as he opened the door, Maggie, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately took 2 steps forward and said with a straight face, "Sir, please come with me. The boss is waiting for you inside." Okay. Zhang Cheng didn't care about the bad attitude of his ex-girlfriend and nodded with a smile. Maggie wore a black low-cut backless evening dress with a pair of 10 centimeters high heels on her feet. Her whole body looked gorgeous, and 2 slender thighs wrapped in black stockings could be seen from time to time along with the skirt. As soon as she entered the hall, she attracted the attention of countless men. But unfortunately, at best, they could only look and didn't dare to take further action. Because just last month, there was a bold guy who tried to get close to the company's recognized goddess. As a result, he was discovered by the tyrannical Zhang Ji. Not only did he lose his job, but he also happened to have a conflict with the gang members. 2 of his ribs were broken, and now he was still in the hospital. It was estimated that the medical expenses alone would drain his remaining savings. As long as one wasn't a fool, they would understand that Maggie, who worked well, was not as simple as an ordinary female secretary. She was being trained as a prospective daughter-in-law by the boss. In the future, she might even enter the board of directors and become a CEO. Whoever dared to have ideas about her must be prepared to bear the boss's anger and revenge. Through the reading of the brain's shallow thinking, Zhang Qing quickly realized how terrible the mother's desire to control was. She even arranged in advance what kind of wife her son would marry. If it wasn't for his impersonation, perhaps the original guy with the same name would be controlled by his mother for the rest of his life. Just as he was secretly sympathizing with this old man's tragic life, Zhang Ji, who was talking to a white-haired old man, finally saw the young man and woman walking over from afar. She immediately smiled and introduced, "Mr. Baron, this is the son I mentioned to you just now. How is he? Not bad, right? Ha! He is indeed a handsome and dashing young man. Hello, young man. It's nice to meet you." The old man took the initiative to extend his right hand. "It's nice to meet you too, Mr. Baron," Zhang Cheng politely replied. But the moment their hands touched, he suddenly felt a faint magical energy coming from the other's palm. Without a doubt, this old man wasn't an ordinary person, but a magus who grasped a mysterious power. He was using his own method to show his identity. Zhang Ji, who was standing at the side, didn't notice anything unusual and continued to speak with great enthusiasm. "Son, Mr. Baron is a top tycoon from Austria. Just the shares of the various major companies under his name are worth $6.5 billion US. A third of our spirit-calming tea has been bought by him." Hearing this, Zhang Cheng's eyes flashed with a light, and he asked with a smile that wasn't a smile, "Oh, may I ask, why did you buy so much tea?" "Of course it's to drink. You don't know how important those tea leaves are to an old man like me. I only need a small cup, and it's as if my whole body has obtained unprecedented tranquility and harmony. If not for your mother's insistence on not selling the company, I would have directly bought the company." Old Baron didn't hide his interest in the calming tea and openly admitted it. "So that's how it is." Zhang Qing nodded thoughtfully. Through this simple conversation, he finally understood why a magus would be interested in the calming tea. The reason was very simple. This little flower could allow one to maintain a calm state of mind, and was of great help to meditation. Chapter 546. Perhaps he had recognized Zhang Cheng's identity in the underground world, or perhaps he had felt the stifling magical energy emanating from his body. In any case, after chatting for a while, Old Baron quickly chose to leave. Seeing the magus gradually disappear into the crowd, Zhang Ji, as his mother, withdrew the smile on her face. Frowning, she questioned, "Where have you been fooling around recently? Why haven't I been able to contact you for over 2 months?" I've been busy with real estate investments recently. I've opened a comprehensive entertainment establishment, and the business is pretty good." Zhang Qing hurriedly found an excuse. There was nothing he could do about it. Who asked him to head to another world every once in a while? In the eyes of others, he had mysteriously disappeared from the face of the earth. "Real estate investments? Where's the entertainment establishment you opened? What's it called?" The domineering mother was clearly not the kind of woman who could be easily fooled. She widened her eyes and continued to ask. "Violet House. It's in New York's Brooklyn area." Zhang Cheng reported his location without hesitation. In any case, apart from the top floor, the entire building was a legal entertainment center. It had all the necessary facilities for taking photos. Even the most difficult liquor in New York was no exception. "The Violet family? That's your property?" Zhang Ji was obviously shocked. Although she normally didn't care too much about these places that wore down one's willpower, she would still occasionally hear the youngsters in the company mention the delightful, mysterious atmosphere of Violet House, as well as the bustling queues. As an entertainment establishment, this kind of overflowing customer flow undoubtedly meant that business was booming, and they could earn huge profits. Zhang Cheng smiled and nodded. "That's right. And this time, I didn't cooperate with anyone. It's mine alone." "Excellent. I'm proud of you. It's very obvious that you've inherited my excellent genes, and not that trash's." The domineering mother wasn't stingy with her praise. Of course, rather than praising her son, It was more like she was praising herself. Thank you. Although Zhang Cheng really wanted to ridicule the vile character of this mother in name, and at the same time mourn for his cheap father whom he had never met, he ultimately restrained himself. Because there were too many things to complain about, he didn't know where to start. For a moment, he was extremely curious about his cheap father. He wanted to figure out how strong a man's endurance and willpower must be to walk into the hall of marriage with such a strong woman. Moreover, they even had a child together. Zhang Ji obviously didn't know that her cheap son was silently criticizing her. She suddenly changed the topic. By the way, where is your partner? Why isn't he here? He went to the Amazon rainforest to find a new research topic. What's the matter? Do you have something you want to talk to him about? Zhang Cheng asked knowingly. He blinked his eyes, thinking that the main show was finally here. No, it's not a big deal. I just want to discuss the expansion of the planting scale. I believe you have also seen that the company's new products are in short supply. We should not waste such a large amount of profit for no reason. Zhang Ji pretended to be relaxed and said the most important purpose of today's conversation. That was right. Expand the scale, occupy the market, improve the reputation, and finally form a brand effect. Then, get listed on New York's Wall Street and create a huge industrial chain. This was the entire purpose of her grand business plan. Zhang Cheng felt the ambition in her mind. The corner of his mouth twitched inadvertently. He narrowed his eyes and asked, "Then how much do you think we should expand?" 20 times. Zhang Ji obviously had a careful plan. She directly opened her mouth and gave an exaggerated number. 20 times. Are you kidding me? Zhang Cheng exclaimed in an exaggerated manner. Expanding the planting scale by 20 times. Unless the energy source in the basement that could continuously produce the sun well water was transferred there, otherwise, 2/3 of the well water would be used to plant peace bloom. Although he no longer needed this thing to provide him with magic energy, he couldn't waste it like this. Zhang Ji rolled her eyes and nodded at Maggie, who was standing on the side. The latter quickly opened the bag and took out a contract from it. This is the transfer agreement for 25% of the company's original shares. I have already signed it. As long as you agree to my conditions, it will immediately belong to you. As for your mysterious partner, you are responsible for him. I only want peace bloom, a lot of peace bloom. Okay, I can agree to it first. But the planting base can't be too far away from New York, and it must be renovated according to my design. Nothing can be changed. Zhang Cheng finally chose to agree after thinking for a while. On one hand, he didn't want to destroy the harmonious relationship between mother and son. On the other hand, the magical herbs in the greenhouse of his villa should indeed be moved. At the same time, he could also try out the fully enclosed building that the mages in Faerun specially designed for the rapid growth of magical plants, the Arcane Garden. No problem. I plan to choose a place in the suburbs of New York and specially build a 4 to 6 story planting base. As for the ownership, I will directly put it under your name. Zhang Ji obviously didn't care about these minor details at all. After getting what she wanted, everything else was negotiable. Okay, I will take care of the rest. After saying that, Zhang Qing picked up 2 glasses of wine from the table and passed one of them to his nominal mother. He then gently touched the glass and raised his head to drink it. After drinking the red liquid in the glass, the two of them chatted casually for a while. Zhang Ji then left her cheap son behind and devoted herself to building closer relationships with big clients and business partners. For a career woman like her, nothing in the world was more important than her own business, especially on the eve of the rise of a huge business empire. Every step was crucial. Silently watching the woman who was doing her best to achieve her ambition, Zhang Qing couldn't help but smile and shake his head. He sighed and sighed. Women are really a kind of scary creatures. Is this how you evaluate your own mother? Maggie questioned in a low voice with a cold face. No, you don't understand. I'm paying my respects to her. You have to know that in this scary society where the strong prey on the weak, only those who are strong enough and terrifying enough are qualified to stand at the top of the pyramid. And my mother just so happened to have such potential. If she was in the Middle Ages, she would be a natural queen. Zhang Cheng explained calmly. I want to go out and get some fresh air. Do you want to come with me? Maggie took a deep breath and took the initiative to invite him. Needless to say, due to her poor attitude in the last two meetings, her action was a bit puzzling. Zhang Qing didn't try to read her mind and nodded gently. Okay. Soon, the young man and woman quietly left the venue from the back door. After Zhang Ji, who had been observing carefully, noticed this, she slightly raised the corner of her mouth and revealed a meaningful smile. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 547. New York had become quite cold in December. The outdoor temperature had even reached -3 degrees Celsius, and white snowflakes were floating in the sky. Maggie's evening gown that exposed a large part of her skin could not provide any warmth at all. Just a few seconds after coming outside, she began to shiver involuntarily. As the saying goes, women are a group of out-and-out lunatics. Men will never understand what crazy things they will do for beauty and sex appeal, such as now. Here, put on. Zhang Chung took off his jacket very gentlemanly and handed it over. Thank you. Maggie knew that now was not the time to be brave. She quickly put it on and slightly reduced the loss of heat. Under her lead, the two crossed the street and came to the side of a beautiful new red BMW in the underground parking lot across the street. Yours? Zhang Cheng's face showed a trace of surprise. Although he knew nothing about cars, he could see that the price of this car was definitely not less than $150,000. It was far beyond the upper limit that the other party's income could afford. Yes, your mother gave me a Christmas gift. How is it? Not bad, right? Maggie skillfully took out the car key and opened the door. She got in and turned on the air conditioning. It's really not bad. I hope the Christmas gift she gave me is better than this. Zhang Chung half-jokingly teased and also sat in the front passenger seat and closed the door. After a while, the air conditioning dispelled the chill and made the car warm up temporarily. Maggie also took off her jacket and looked at her ex-boyfriend with a scrutinizing gaze. After a few minutes, she said without rhyme or reason, "You have changed." "Sorry, I don't understand what you mean." Zhang Chung frowned subconsciously. Just as he was considering whether to use his psychic ability to read the other party's deeper thoughts, Maggie followed up and said, "Since you came back, you have become more and more mature and more indifferent. You know, although you were a little proud and conceited before, you were kind-hearted and would never have the heart to hurt others. So, you didn't ask me out just to say this, right?" Zhang Chung looked innocent as he interrupted. To be honest, he quite hated this way of talking in circles, especially when the other party's identity was so sensitive. "No, of course not. I have something very important to show you. Let's talk after you finish reading it." Maggie quickly opened the small drawer under the cab and took out a thick stack of A4 papers. Zhang Chung took it and glanced at it. He found that these were all the payment records of the woman in front of him from high school to university graduation. The signature below was Zhang Ji. In other words, the reason why Maggie could have such a long list of beautiful academic qualifications was all because of his powerful mother's financial support. Even though Zhang Chung had seen a lot of big scenes, he was still a little puzzled. Illegitimate daughter? No, that's impossible. There was no trace of Asian blood in him at all. Could she be the daughter of a friend or ex-boyfriend? Maggie obviously knew what he was thinking. She put away all the information and explained with a wry smile, "Don't think too much. We are not related by blood. In fact, there were 20 girls like me who were sponsored at the beginning. Every one of them was carefully selected. Not only did they have to be beautiful, smart, and have a good figure, but they also had to have no bad habits and be self-respecting. After a cruel elimination, only one person was lucky enough to survive to the end. That person was me. You can imagine, as an American girl living in a big city, I didn't attend a party when I was in school, including the prom. I didn't hold hands with any boys, let alone kiss or be in a relationship. There was no alcohol, no intoxicating drugs, and no close contact with the opposite sex. And all of these arrangements were only for one person, and that was you." "You mean, my mother began to plan my life and future a long time ago?" Zhang Chung was shocked. There was no way not to be shocked. He didn't realize that his cheap mother's desire to control was so terrible. Starting from high school to train her son's future wife and assistant. No one in their right mind would do that. This was a disease. It was a very serious mental and psychological disease. What was more frightening was that Zhang Ji actually succeeded. If he didn't impersonate her, that unlucky guy with the same name would probably be in the dark until he died. He would have no idea that his smart, sexy, and beautiful girlfriend was actually arranged by his mother. Yes. How is it? Are you surprised? Maggie stared at Zhang Cheng's eyes with a very complicated look. The latter smiled bitterly and nodded. It's impossible not to be surprised. I think my mother should see a psychologist or psychiatrist. Also, I don't understand why you agreed to such an excessive condition. To leave hell. A flower like you who grew up in a greenhouse can't understand how terrible it is to have parents who are drug addicts. In order to get money to buy drugs, they actually sold me, who was 12 years old, to a pedophile. Fortunately, your mother happened to pass by and save me. To be honest, I'm quite grateful to her. Otherwise, I can't imagine what would have become of me. Maggie shrugged helplessly. What about now? Why are you telling me this? Zhang Cheng asked with a faint smile. He wasn't an idiot who would be moved to the point of forgetting his surname just because the other party was a beautiful woman who grew up with a tragic background. On the contrary, he could feel that the woman in front of him had an intention to him, a very strong intention. Maggie took a deep breath and replied with a very serious tone. Because your mother gave me an ultimatum. If I can't return to your side, I will not only lose my future, but also lose everything I have right now. So I need you. I need your help. I worked hard for 8 years, but it's not for this result. Oh, why should I help you? Give me a reason? Zhang Cheng began to enjoy this interesting family game. His pupils flashed with a faint golden light. As long as you are willing to help me, after the company is listed, I will have the opportunity to enter the senior management and assist your mother in managing her business empire. At that time, I could provide first-hand information. If you take over the management of the company one day, I will not hesitate to support your every decision. Maggie spoke very quickly. She knew that there was not much time left. Zhang Ji was not a kind person. She might have already planned to kick her out. It sounds good. Tell me, what kind of help do you need? It's very simple. There is only one way to prove that a woman can return to a man's side. That is sex. Now, in the car? Don't worry. Most of the employees are having their annual party in the hotel. No one will notice us. I promise that I will not interfere with your private life. I just need you to come to me at least twice a week. Maggie said as she got into the car. She kicked the button on the control panel with her high heels, and the seat began to be lowered slowly. After a while, the beautiful new car began to tremble slightly. Please remember the domain name of this book.com. Wonderful book mobile version website.com. Chapter 548. 40 minutes later, when the two of them returned to the hotel, everyone noticed the hickeys on Maggie's chest and neck. Anyone with a bit of common sense would have realized that she had just finished a fierce battle. Her whole body was glowing, and it was obvious that she had been nourished by a man. When she passed by Zhang Ji, the latter even stopped talking and gave her a satisfied look. For a moment, the entire company's employees began to whisper, trying to figure out what had happened. Why did this pair of adulterous couple, who had broken up, have a relapse? Zhang Cheng completely ignored everyone's gaze and went to a corner alone, planning to eat something and leave. After all, the annual auction in the underground world of North America was about to begin. He was going to concoct some magic potions and send them to exchange for some gold dinar to avoid the awkward situation of not being able to afford something that he was interested in. But unfortunately, someone obviously did not intend to let him go so easily. The old man who called himself Baron, who he had met once before, quietly came over and sighed with envy. It's so good to be young. When I was young, I had many beautiful lovers and enjoyed the pleasure and excitement of the body. But as my body slowly aged and decayed, I could no longer experience that feeling. Why don't you use the power of magic? I believe that with your level, it shouldn't be difficult to take over a young man's body, right? Zhang Qing asked in a low voice as he ate the juicy steak. Perhaps it was because his soul had lived in the dragon's body for a long time. His taste was more and more in the direction of carnivorous animals, and he had no interest in vegetables or salads. No. Magic is not a power to be squandered. The old man quickly waved his hand. You have to be extra careful when using it, or it might lead to a terrible disaster. By the way, I don't think I have done a proper introduction. My real name is Florian Julian Jacob, the Dean of the Magic Mystic Realm Wizard Academy, and also the Great Wizard of the Wizard Association. Oh, Zhang Cheng swallowed the food in his mouth, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Although the underground world was now ruled by the Parliament, the Wizard Association, which had existed since ancient times, was not for nothing. They were the only organization that had the ability to continuously cultivate powerful supernatural users. Especially in Europe and North Africa, it was almost the second largest organization after the local Supreme Council. As the core of the entire organization, the Sorcerer Academy in the magic realm had always been guarded by the most powerful sorcerer, who also served as the principal. He wasn't sure what the purpose of such a big shot looking for him was. I've heard that someone has mastered a powerful spell that can stop time, so I've come to meet you in person. What do you think? Do you want to make a deal with me? The old man asked calmly. Zhang Cheng sized him up with interest. After a full minute, he asked with a smile, "Who told you that?" "Venus. She is a member of the Adepts Association and one of the most outstanding graduates of the Adepts Academy." The great adept had no intention of hiding anything. He generously reported the name of the person who had provided the information. "So it's her." Zhang Cheng's mind flashed with the figure of a woman in her 30s, who was filled with a powerful aura. He didn't have much of a grudge against the only female member of the New York Secondary Council. There was no conflict of interest between the two of them. Most of the time, they minded their own business. After pondering for a moment, he quickly smiled and nodded. "Sure, but I believe you should know that stopping time is not an ordinary spell. The price to obtain it is very high. Don't expect to use dollars or gold dinars to complete this deal." When the great adept heard this, his eyes instantly shot out two rays of light. "It's just as I guessed. You really did stop time." "No. To be exact, it's not stopping time. It's speeding up the flow of time to achieve the effect of looking at others as if time has stopped." Zhang Cheng quickly corrected him. He didn't mind sharing the rich knowledge in his mind, and he wasn't afraid of any competition or challenge. However, the prerequisite was that the other party could offer him something that he was interested in. Speeding up the flow of time? What a genius idea. Unimaginable. If you don't mind me asking, did you invent this spell? The old man's emotions had obviously entered a state of excitement. His hand holding the goblet was trembling slightly. "Sorry, it's not convenient for me to reveal this. If you think it is, then it is. If you think it isn't, then it isn't. It's not important at all." Zhang Cheng pursed his lips and hinted meaningfully. "You're right. It's not important. What's important is the spell itself. I have the Book of Merlin that has been passed down from generation to generation in the Sorcerers Association. It records all the spells of the British Isles in the 5th century AD, including the surviving druids. I think it's very reasonable to use it to exchange for that spell of yours." As he spoke, the great adept took out an ancient palm-sized book from a leather pouch the size of a fist. There was no need to ask to know that this book was enchanted with a shrinking spell. Once it was removed, it would immediately become bigger than a table. However, Zhang Cheng shook his head without hesitation. "Not enough. You and I both know very well what this spell that controls the flow of time means. It means that the spellcaster can kill the opponent before they can react. Fine. I'll add 2 more magical notes from the 10th century secret sect witches. Even though witches rely on their innate talents to cast spells, they have their own unique understanding of potions and rituals. Don't haggle anymore, or else I won't have anything good to give you." The great adept complained with a bitter expression as he took out 2 more notes written on ancient parchment. It had to be said that apart from an ancient organization like the Sorcerers Association, no one else could take out so much precious knowledge and information at once. Deal. Using his mind ability, Zhang Cheng knew that he couldn't squeeze any more out of the great adept. He decisively took out a 9th ring arcana spell, time-stop scroll, and handed it to the great adept. The great adept hurriedly opened it and carefully examined it. When the intricate spell model on the parchment scroll appeared in front of his eyes, He couldn't help but become excited. He loudly praised, "Unbelievable! It's too perfect! Is this really something that a human can do? Every supporting structure, every point of magic, it's all calculated perfectly. There's not a single bit of waste." Relax, great adept. I don't want to attract the attention of the ordinary people around me. In addition, this scroll contains a time stop spell. As long as you activate it, you'll immediately understand the mysteries of controlling the flow of time. However, I still suggest that you don't use it easily. Instead, keep it as a trump card. Also, I hope that we'll have a chance to work together again in the future. Goodbye. As the last word fell, Zhangcheng immediately took the 3 books and left. He couldn't wait to carefully study the contents recorded in them. Unknown, brand new knowledge always filled him with the interest of research and exploration. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 549. On the top floor of a high-end leisure club in Queens, New York, a woman wearing a tight black skirt and a red rose hat, dressed like a Victorian woman, was anxiously pacing back and forth in the room. Along with the crisp sound of high heels stepping on the floor, another young man, sitting on the sofa, finally couldn't help but remind her, "Dear Sister Venus, you've been walking back and forth for an hour and a half. Can't you stop and rest for a while?" "Don't worry, that's the great wizard. There's nothing in this world that can threaten him." "Shut up, Adam. You don't understand the terror of that Easterner. Do you know? If he wanted to kill me last time, I wouldn't even be able to survive for a second. Although the great wizard is very powerful, he can't control time." Venus rolled her eyes in annoyance. As a member of New York's Secondary Council, she had been restless ever since she told the news to the great wizard. She was afraid that there would be a conflict between the two and she would be implicated. All right, I'll shut up. It's going to be Christmas soon. I won't lower myself to your level." The young man called Adam immediately raised his hand in surrender. However, Venus didn't let him go and continued to mock him mercilessly. "Christmas? As a citizen of the underground world, you're actually celebrating the birthday of a swindler supported by the forces of heaven? Don't be so cynical. Up till now, it's just an ordinary festival. People can take this opportunity to happily gather together and have fun. That's all there is to it." Adam shrugged nonchalantly. Just when Venus wanted to teach her brother a lesson, the magic energy in the air suddenly began to vibrate, and in less than a few seconds, an old man walked out from inside. He was none other than the great wizard who had just completed the transaction with Zhang Cheng, Florian Julian Jacob. "God, you come back safely. How was it? What was the result of the conversation?" Venus hurriedly moved closer and asked with a nervous face. "Not bad. It was a little easier than I thought. See, this is the secret of him stopping time." Saying this, the great wizard took out the parchment scroll that stored the time stop and carefully spread it out. Instantly, the siblings in the room were stunned by the exquisite magic lines and geometric patterns on the surface of the scroll. After a full minute, Adam took the lead and exclaimed, "This is unbelievable. Is this really something that a human can do? I have every reason to suspect that he has borrowed the supercomputer of a human world to some extent. Using a supercomputer to optimize the magic structure? Is your brain filled with SH*T? Unless you first invent an artificial intelligence with independent thinking and then teach it everything you know about magic, then you'll never be able to do that." Venus sneered and retorted. Seeing that the siblings were about to quarrel again, the Grand Magus hurriedly waved his hand and reprimanded. "Enough! No matter what, we can be sure that this person has mastered a set of magic system and knowledge that is completely different from ours. What do you plan to do?" Adam raised his head and asked cautiously. The Wizards and Earth Sorcerer was not a charity. There were even Voodoo Moon Voodoo, Voodoo times Earth, and Voodoo Voodoo O Africa and America. Until now, there were only 2 or 3 Voodoo Voodoo O Africa, and they were unable to form a unified organization. It's definitely unrealistic to take it by force. I can't even tell how much magic energy he has stored in his body, and before one of us can master the flow of time, anyone is like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered in front of him. Let's observe him for a while and try to be friendly. We'll talk about the rest after the end of the year auction." The great wizard hesitated for a few seconds and immediately gave the corresponding instructions. Venus nodded thoughtfully. "Understood. I'll be in charge of this. I'm the best at handling interpersonal relationships, and I don't have any conflicts of interest with him." "Very good. I'll go back to the magic realm to study this scroll, and it's best not to disturb me if there's nothing important." After saying that, the Grand Magus took out a fountain pen from his bosom and touched the diamond inlaid on top of it. In less than a second, his entire body gradually became transparent and finally disappeared from the spot. When this important figure had completely left, Venus was slightly relieved. She turned around and asked her brother, "Adam, do you know what kind of gift a young man in his 20s likes the most?" "Hee. Of course, it's a supermodel with a great figure." The young man replied with a lewd expression. "Foo asterisk K. It seems like it was a mistake to ask for your opinion." Venus couldn't help but burst out with vulgarities. She couldn't believe that after not seeing him for a few years, her cute brother, who used to be well-behaved, had turned into a hooligan. Adam realized that his sister was really angry, so he immediately put away his frivolous tone and answered seriously. "Actually, men between the ages of 20 and 30 only like a few things: women, sports cars, yachts, helicopters, luxury watches, and luxury villas. It mainly depends on the personality. Generally speaking, people with a calm personality prefer villas and luxury watches, and people with a flamboyant personality prefer sports cars, yachts, and helicopters." "Is that so? Maybe I should give him the villa in Long Island as a Christmas gift." Venus narrowed her eyes and muttered to herself. For people of her status, the currency of the ordinary people's world was nothing. She didn't even need to use any illegal means. As long as she leaked the news, people would immediately rush to give her money. If she could use dollars to gain the favor of a powerful wizard with endless potential, she wouldn't be stingy at all. At the same time, Zhang Cheng himself was hiding in the old house that Senator Miles had given him before his death, reading the 3 books that he had just obtained with great interest. Especially after the ancient Roman Empire was destroyed, the primitive druid spells that were passed down among the remaining Celts opened an interesting door for him. To be exact, the druids' deep understanding of plants, animals, and souls, as well as how to use these powers for emergency purposes, were like a stream of clear spring water, bringing him a new direction of exploration. Combined with the knowledge he obtained from the ruins of the Child of the Forest in the Song of Ice and Fire, he quickly created several interesting spells. There were healing wounds, removing diseases, manipulating animals, plants, and even some transformation spells. Although they couldn't combine with arcane spells and psionic powers to produce terrifying power, they were better in terms of low consumption, stealth, and not causing violent energy fluctuations. Just as Zhang Cheng was completely immersed in the joy of creating new spells, a phone call disrupted all his fun. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 550. Master. Bad news. Just now, a vicious murder happened in our district. A woman rushed into Old Bath's shop and stole an antique. She also killed 7 unlucky people, including the owner and his customers. The corpses were arranged in a strange shape, and a line of ancient Latin was written on the wall with blood. The translation is that Saroma's descendant has awakened, and she will use blood and death to cleanse all the betrayers. The Pullman's hurried voice came through the phone. It could be heard that he was very nervous, and even his voice was trembling a little. Saroma's descendant? At this time? Zhang Cheng's face showed a hint of surprise. Ever since he met Miles for the first time, he knew about the rumors of Saroma's vicious curse before her death. He always thought that this person hiding in the dark would cause trouble in the fragment world. But who would have thought that the other party would not take the normal path? Now that the fragment world had collapsed, and most of Brooklyn's feudal lords and residents had died in it, Saroma's descendant came out and started to cause trouble. That's right. You'd better hurry over and take a look. After all, the situation this time is more complicated, and it has alarmed the ordinary people living in the surrounding area. So, It won't be long before the New York police start to intervene. The Pullman lowered his voice and reminded. All right, I understand. With that, Zhang Cheng took the initiative to hang up the phone. He helplessly put down the research in his hands, left the old house, and drove straight to the scene of the incident. As a councilman, his responsibility was to maintain the stability of the entire Brooklyn, especially to ensure that the underground world would never be exposed to the ordinary people. So, he had to deal with this matter as soon as possible. Otherwise, once the government started to investigate, it would become more and more troublesome. After speeding along the main road for about 40 minutes, the streamlined sports car finally stopped in front of an ordinary-looking shop that sold magical items. The owner called himself Old Bath. No one knew how long he had lived, and no one knew where he came from. Anyway, since the day this house existed, he had been running his shop. He almost never went out and paid taxes to the local feudal lord on time every month. Not long ago, Zhang Cheng had met him once. He was an old man with a strange temper, but he was very principled. As soon as the door was pushed open, the Pullman who was guarding the door hurriedly pushed away a guy who was trying to rush in to take photos. He came closer and said while panting, "Master, let's go in quickly. The police should be here in a few minutes." After all, it was 2003, and most mobile phones were not smartphones yet. They also did not have cameras or camera functions. Taking pictures still required digital cameras or primitive film cameras. Lead the way. Zhang Cheng didn't waste any words as he tossed a mind blast into the crowd. Then he pushed the door open and walked in. In an instant, the ordinary people who were still clamoring to see the crime scene suddenly fell into a state of inexplicable sluggishness. They stood there motionless as if they were stupid. When the two residents of the underground world who were guarding the door saw this scene, they immediately opened their mouths wide, and their faces were filled with disbelief. Although they could also use their own strength to block these ordinary people outside, they definitely couldn't do it so easily. It was as if everything was settled with a wave of their hands. Of course, this mind blast wasn't the shadow spell used by the priests in the world of Azeroth. It was the mind flayers of the Farron continent who were most proficient in the mind power. Any unlucky person who didn't have a strong enough would lose their ability to think on the spot once they were within the spell's area of effect. They would look as if they were frozen. After walking into the shop, Zhang Cheng immediately smelled a pungent smell of blood. Old Bath was stuck to the wall by a magical energy. There was an icicle that emitted cold air pierced through his heart. His mouth was also sewn together for some reason. Beside him, there were a few people who looked like customers. Their feet were gathered together, forming a blooming shape like a sunflower or the sun. As for the cause of death, they were all frozen to death. Their bodies were covered in a layer of white frost. It was estimated that with a light touch, their bodies would shatter into pieces on the spot. Such a strange way of killing was filled with a mysterious sense of ritual. Finally, Zhang Cheng's interest was piqued. He carefully checked the condition of each of the corpses, as well as the lingering fear in Old Bath's eyes. Only then did he ask the Pullman, without turning his head, "Is there a surveillance camera here?" No. Old Bath was a person who valued his privacy very much. He was also extremely against modern technology. Not to mention surveillance equipment, other than lamps, he didn't even have a single piece of household electricity. The latter replied with a pained expression. It was obvious that he, who had completely integrated into modern society, couldn't understand a person like Old Bath who was seriously out of touch with the times. Then what about the lost antique? Zhang Cheng asked again, stroking his chin. It's said to be half a disc made entirely of gold. There were some strange patterns and symbols carved on it. So it was a planned murder and robbery. The other party was very familiar with this shop and was also very familiar with Old Bath. Let's retreat. Clean up the scene. There's no more valuable information here. In addition, help me check the surveillance cameras in other places nearby. See who passed by when the killing happened. Zhang Cheng knew that it was usually very difficult to quickly find the murderer in such a well-planned operation. Therefore, he was prepared to return to the stronghold and slowly sort out his thoughts. According to his judgment, since this person had brazenly used the title of Saroma's descendant, he definitely wouldn't stay silent. It wouldn't be long before the second killing occurred. The more people he killed, the more horse prints he would reveal. Sooner or later, he would be caught. Moreover, that person had also stolen a mysterious antique gilded disc. There was an 80% chance that he was planning something big. Got it. Leave this to me. The Pullman quickly beckoned to one of the young Latino men at the door. The latter immediately ran in and began to spit boiling hot steam at the corpses. After a short while, the frozen corpses returned to normal. They even emitted a faint barbecued meat fragrance. Old Bath, who was stuck to the wall, was forcefully pulled down and laid flat on the ground. After everything was settled, the two men immediately left the shop and began to question the nearby businesses and individuals who had surveillance cameras. By the time the police arrived, they had already left with a few hard drives. Of course, everyone's memories, including those who came to watch the show, had been altered. None of them remembered that the Pullman and Zhang Cheng had entered the shop, nor did they remember that the former had caused terrible damage to the crime scene. Even if the best forensic doctor came, he might not be able to figure out what had happened nearby and why these people were so tragically murdered. Please remember the domain name of this book.com. Wonderful book mobile version website.com. Chapter 551. Master. Found her. The murderer is this woman. After a full 2 hours, the Pullman finally locked onto a young woman with long black hair, wearing a black trench coat from the many surveillance videos. He used software to clear the blurry image, then printed it out and sent it to the room on the top floor of the stronghold. Unfortunately, this woman seemed to be very alert and kept her head down. The camera could not capture her face, but her height and weight could still be estimated. Looking at the seductive back view, Zhang Chen curled his lips and smiled. He directly ordered, sent a copy of the photo to all the counselors and lords in New York, and sent another copy to the Supreme Council. Tell them clearly that a dangerous person who claims to be a descendant of Selma has appeared. Understood. I'll get someone to do it right away. Also, are you sure you don't need to issue a wanted order and let the residents of the entire underground world look for her? The Pullman asked cautiously. No need. Wait until the auction is over. You should go back early to spend Christmas with your family. They shouldn't know your true identity yet, right? Zhang Cheng waved his hand indifferently, his eyes never leaving the woman on the A4 paper. He had a hunch that the other party would bring him unprecedented excitement and entertainment in the next period of time. That's right. In his opinion, the descendant of Selma, who had caused huge casualties to the North American Council, was at best a slightly powerful character who was far from jumping out of the chessboard to become a real chess player. To be exact, even the counselors in the Supreme Council did not see the true face of this world. Only a few old guys like Faust and Laffern, who had insight into the secrets hidden in history, understood what true power was. They even longed to surpass the limits of mortals and become a real god. Greed, jealousy, ambition, desire. Although many people regarded them as the root of evil and the dark side of human nature, they ignored that they were the ones who allowed humans to move from primitive savagery to civilization and complete one miracle after another that even the gods were amazed by. To some extent, greed, jealousy, ambition, and desire were the most precious wealth of human beings. Only when you truly wanted something from the bottom of your heart would you work hard, fight hard, and unleash all of your potential without caring about the cost. The Pullman obviously did not know what the person he was loyal to was thinking at the moment. There was a rare, gentle expression on his face. That's right. I haven't told them yet, and I'm not even sure if I should tell them. Maybe they don't know about the underground world. It's not bad to live an ordinary life. Of course, if some of my children awaken, that's another matter. Haha, it's not easy being a parent, isn't it? Zhang Cheng teased in a half-joking tone. Yeah. Now, I don't know how my parents tolerated the stupid things I did during my adolescence. Zhang Cheng took it and opened it to find a dagger inlaid with an exquisite mother emerald. It emitted a faint magical aura, as if the soul of a powerful animal was sealed inside. The dagger of Zanka, it's said to be the weapon of a voodoo witch doctor from the 14th century in North Africa. With it, you can obtain the power of the animal sealed inside. Although it may not be of much use to you, this is the best gift I can get." The Pullman introduced with a smile. "Thank you. It's a very good weapon. As a return gift, I'll give this to you." Zhang Cheng took out a bottle of potion that could strengthen the upper limit of the body's mana absorption and threw it over. This is, feeling the strong energy emitted from the potion bottle, the Pullman's eyes revealed a look of disbelief. Perhaps others were not clear about his young master's talent in alchemy, especially in the field of making potions, but he was very clear. Many people in the underground world did not hesitate to kill in order to obtain a bottle of the lowest level healing potion or mana recovery potion. In just a few short months, more than 30 or 40 unlucky people had lost their lives because of this. It's nothing, just a little thing that can permanently increase your mana. You can drink it yourself, or you can give it to your children. Well, save the thanks. You can go home after you're done with this matter. Finally, Merry Christmas. With the last word blurted out, Zhang Cheng directly walked out of the office and took the private elevator to the underground parking lot. Before he took out the key, he saw a beautiful figure standing next to the car, smiling and staring at him. "Ms. Venus? Are you waiting for me?" "Of course. How about it? Are you interested in taking me out for a ride?" Venus took the initiative to invite him. "No problem. It just so happens that I also have something to tell you," Zhang Cheng said as he opened the car door and made a gesture of invitation. Venus did not hesitate to get into the passenger seat and asked with interest, "What's the matter?" Zhang Cheng skillfully started the car and slowly drove out of the parking lot. He drove aimlessly along the main road. After a full 7 or 8 minutes, he handed the printed picture to her. "Look, a woman who claims to be a descendant of Saroma has appeared. Not only did she kill Old Bath and the customers in the shop, she also stole half of a disc made of gold. It is said that it is engraved with mysterious symbols and ancient words." A descendant of Saroma? Venus had obviously heard about the curse and raised her eyebrows in slight surprise. But soon, she regained her composure and curled her lips indifferently. "It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with us anyway. If she is really a descendant of Saroma, she will only kill the blood relatives of those who betrayed her. Let the Supreme Council and those ancient families have a headache." "Oh, so you're not going to participate in the capture of her?" Zhang Cheng's eyes flashed with surprise. "Not necessarily. Let's see what kind of price they can offer. If the price is high enough, I don't mind being a bounty hunter myself. In addition, I'll have to trouble you to take me to this address." Venus handed over a note. "Okay." Zhang Cheng glanced at it and stepped on the gas pedal without saying anything. He made a turn in extremely fast speed and drove straight in the direction of Changdao. Through the rearview mirror, he could clearly see a silver-gray sports car following them from afar. He planned to lead her to a place with fewer people to see what she was up to. The sky in New York was almost completely dark now. It would be normal for a few people to die on the side of the road. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 552. Dear Zhang, don't tell me you're thinking of killing the guy who's following us. After observing for a while, Venus seemed to have noticed something, and a playful expression appeared on her face. "Is there a problem?" Zhang Cheng turned around and asked. "Of course there is a problem. My brother is sitting in the car behind us. If you kill him, I will be very sad." Venus told him the information about the owner of the silver-gray sports car. If someone else said to kill Adam, she would take it as a joke and see if she could make her brother suffer a little. But the person in front of her was too dangerous. If she didn't pay attention, her cute brother would become a headless corpse. She didn't dare to take the risk. "I see." Hearing that it was her brother, Zhang Cheng immediately slowed down, gave up his original plan, and started to enjoy the charming night view on both sides of Changdao. As one of the 2 places with the most rich people in New York, Changdao was different from the bustling steel jungle in Manhattan. It was full of peace and quiet. Grass and all kinds of trees and flowers could be seen on both sides of the road. But unfortunately, it was completely covered by white snow, and only the villas were left standing on the ground. Obviously, those who could afford a house here were at least middle-class people with an annual income of more than $200,000. Otherwise, they couldn't afford a house that started at $500,000 and went up without a ceiling. Some of the bigger villas cost more than tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars. It was said that several of the most expensive villas in the world came from this place. Of course, the property tax was also very high. According to the standard of the lowest 1%, a villa worth $10 million, even if no one lived in it, would have to pay $100,000 a year. If it was a villa worth $100 million, it would be $1 million. Generally speaking, only the real billionaires had the ability to buy luxury villas in Chengdu. After driving along the quiet road for about 10 minutes, the car finally stopped at the gate of a villa that occupied a huge area near the sea. Zhang Cheng roughly compared the address at the gate and immediately said to Venus in the passenger seat, we've arrived at your house. Please get out of the car. No, my dear, this is not my home, but your home. Venus smiled and took out a copy of the property transfer from the small bag she carried with her. Because it was usually impossible to obtain the original real estate certificate when purchasing a house in the United States, it could only be confirmed through a photocopy, a notice from a notary company, and an online search. Looking at this mansion that was worth $36 million, covered an area of more than 20 acres, about 8 hectares, and more than 80,000 square meters, and was inexplicably registered under his name, Zhang Cheng had a playful expression on his face. After a full minute, he asked, "Why? Please don't tell me it's a Christmas present." That was right. In fact, it was a Christmas present. Don't think too much about it. I'm just expressing goodwill on behalf of the Adepts Association. I hope that we can work together more in the future and have fewer conflicts. Venus didn't try to hide his intentions and gave an honest answer. All right, I accept your kindness. These medicines are a gift in return. Please accept them. Zhang Cheng had always been wary of the Adepts Association. He didn't intend to accept their gifts for no reason at all. Therefore, he took out 6 bottles of powerful arcane magic potion that he had concocted a few days ago. As the first batch of dreamleaf grass had entered the mature stage, he had privately concocted many high-level potions from Dalaran's alchemy formula. Powerful arcane magic potion was just one of them. This is... Venus was obviously not an idiot who knew nothing about magic potions. She immediately realized how precious these liquids that emitted a mesmerizing violet glow were. Although most adepts knew a little about alchemy, there were only a handful of people in the world who could concoct such powerful potions. Each bottle was worth a lot of money and couldn't be bought with dollars. Zhang Cheng was undoubtedly very satisfied with the other party's strong reaction. He introduced with a smile, "Powerful arcane magic potion. It can greatly increase the power of all spells cast by a spellcaster within an hour. How is it? Do you like it?" "I like it very much. I'm sorry, I seem to have been a little rude. These potions are too precious. A mere villa is simply too shabby compared to them." Although Venus desperately tried to regain her composure, her hand that was tightly gripping the potion bottle betrayed her mood at the moment. "It's all right. The meaning of a gift is to close the distance between people. If you don't mind, help me spread the word to your relatives and friends. I'll send a batch to the auction in a few days." "No problem. I'm very happy to serve. It must be the greatest fortune of my life to be able to meet you." "No, it's my fortune to be able to meet a lady like you who combines intelligence, beauty, temperament, and strength into one." After exchanging a few mushy and flattering words, Venus quickly left Zhang Cheng's car and gently knocked on the window of the silver-gray sports car parked not far behind. "Adam, open the door." "Hey, my dear sister, why are you back so soon? I thought you'd walk into the villa with that Asian and spend a wonderful night together." The young man teased in a frivolous tone as usual. "Idiot, do you think everyone is like you, thinking with their lower body all the time? Look at what this is." Venus, who got into the co-pilot's seat, took the initiative to take out 6 bottles of powerful arcane magic potion. In an instant, Adam's eyes were completely attracted by the violet liquid. After a while, he burst out cursing. "SH*T. This is definitely a F*King high-level potion. He gave it to you?" Venus nodded excitedly. "Yes. Can you believe it? A mere villa worth $36 million in exchange for 6 bottles of high-level potions. Now I can be sure that he's not only a powerful wizard, but also a unique master alchemist. Do you remember how the great wizard described master alchemists in our Wizard Academy classes? No one would refuse the friendship of a master alchemist. They don't even need to kill people themselves. As long as they say the other party's name, there will naturally be hundreds and thousands of people rushing to do it. After saying this, Adam couldn't help but shudder. He seemed to be able to see how crazy the entire underground world would become when these potions appear at the auction. Yes, this is the charm of a master alchemist. Now, there's an opportunity to get closer to a master alchemist in front of us. What do you think we should do? Grab it. Grab it firmly. Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and drive. Tell this news to Mother immediately. While there's still a few days before the auction, we must seize the opportunity before everyone else. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com. Wonderful Book Mobile Edition website, .com. Chapter 553. Oh my God, are you sure this is a Christmas gift and not an April Fool's joke? An hour and a half after Venus left, Aisha, who had just rushed over from Catherine's Kiss restaurant, stared at the luxurious villa in front of her and fell into a sluggish state. As a pauper who didn't even have a place to live, she simply couldn't imagine what kind of person would give a mansion worth tens of millions of dollars as a bicycle or some other gadget to an unfamiliar stranger. Not to mention strangers, even biological parents in the United States rarely gave their children expensive gifts, let alone a luxurious villa in Long Island. Zhang Cheng shrugged with a smile and responded in a half-joking tone, "Don't worry, Elizabeth just checked online, and the property address here has indeed been changed to my name. In addition, I also gave the other party a gift of the same value in return. F*CK. I don't think a few bottles of magic potion can compare to a luxurious villa worth tens of millions of dollars. If I had to choose, I would definitely choose the latter without hesitation," Aisha said as she rubbed the soles of her shoes and stepped into the bright living room. Before she could take the time to look at the surrounding decorations and furnishings, Elizabeth ran down from the second floor and gave her sister a warm hug. "Hey, how have you been recently? Are there any blind guys looking for trouble with you?" "Not bad. Just today's tip alone was $600, and I was able to see a handsome vampire and 2 fangirls having sex in the dim corridor at a close distance." Aisha was obviously very satisfied with her current job, and the corners of her mouth curled up as she talked about the interesting things she encountered today. Especially the part about having sex. She specifically used a series of different words, completely unlike a girl who dropped out of high school in her first year. It should be known that English was not developed from hieroglyphics, but Chinese characters. Each word was relatively independent. Even special professions, such as writers, often needed to look it up in the dictionary, let alone ordinary people. Zhang Cheng felt that with Aisha's vocabulary in this area, it was a waste of her talent not to write erotic stories. Just as he was helplessly sitting on the sofa, listening to these boring trifles, the phone on the table suddenly rang. "Someone is calling me at this hour?" Elizabeth looked up in surprise. "Maybe there's an emergency." Zhang Cheng glanced at the clock. It was exactly 11:30. Although he didn't know who would call him at this time, he still picked up the phone and pressed the answer button. In an instant, a seductive female voice came from the other end. "Good evening, young adept from the East." "Who are you?" Zhang Cheng frowned. Being an extraordinary being who possessed divinity and a memory as powerful as the Mind Flayer's main brain, he was certain that this was the first time he heard Joshua's voice. "Hee, have you forgotten that we just met this afternoon?" The woman hinted with a smile. "It's you? The one who killed Old Bath and claimed to be a descendant of Saroma?" When he said this, Zhang Cheng's eyes lit up slightly, revealing undisguised surprise. "That's right. It's me. How about it? Do you want to make a deal with me?" The woman suggested with a slightly languid voice. "Ha, a deal? Do you think you have the qualifications to make a deal with me?" Zhang Cheng was obviously amused by the other party and laughed without restraint. He couldn't understand how a mouse hiding in a dark corner had the courage to make a deal with a giant dragon. Unfortunately, the woman obviously didn't realize this. She used an extremely cold tone to threaten. Don't be so arrogant. Maybe when your beautiful little girlfriend is dismembered into pieces and fed to the dogs, you'll understand what a huge mistake you've made. Oh, is that so? Then please give it a try. Also, you just give me a good suggestion. When I catch you, I'll cut you into pieces and feed you to the dogs. After saying this, Zhang Qing hung up the phone without hesitation. A threat? His character determined that he would never accept any kind of threat. Even if someone kidnapped or even harmed Elizabeth, he wouldn't make any compromises. Instead, he would choose an even more ruthless method of revenge. He would kill every family and friend of his enemy. Even a newborn baby was no exception. As a person who completely embraced the darkness, he knew what sacrifice was and what loss was. He had long been mentally prepared for this. Moreover, he didn't know if this woman who claimed to be a descendant of Saroma had the ability to break the powerful defensive magic he had cast on the girl. At the same time, in a shabby motel room in Brooklyn, New York, a woman with long black hair was stunned for a minute when she heard the busy tone from the phone. Then, she suddenly crushed the phone and roared furiously. Bastard! How dare he? I'm a descendant of the witch Saroma. No one can refuse me. Calm down, Zoe. Since he's so arrogant, let's teach him a lesson. Another man in his 50s wearing an old-fashioned jacket suggested. You mean? The woman called Zoe clenched her fists tightly. The old man grinned and replied, Of course, it's to kidnap the girl named Elizabeth and her sister. In 2 days, the North American Parliament's annual auction will be held. That Easterner will definitely attend. We could take advantage of this opportunity. Okay, let's do it. By the way, how's the investigation of the Gilded Disc going? Don't worry, there's already some progress. It won't take long for us to know the real purpose of this thing. Better hurry up. I can't wait to teach those traitors a lesson. After calming the woman's irritable mood, the old man quickly pushed the door open and walked out of the motel. He came alone to a gray pickup 2 streets away, took out a cigarette, and said to the middle-aged man in the driver's seat with a smile, Hey, buddy, lend me a light. Here. The other party took out the cigarette lighter in the car and lit the cigarette. Then, he asked with a faint smile, How was it? Did the woman believe the lie you made up? Yes. She's like an idiot now, shouting that she's a descendant of the witch Saroma all day long. When we get what we want, she'll automatically come forward and bear all the consequences. It's a perfect plan, isn't it? The old man's eyes revealed a cunning look. Great. Then I'll inform the boss right away. Remember, keep your mouth shut and don't reveal any details about the plan to anyone. As long as we finish this job, we can complete that damn contract. We don't have to worry about being dragged down to hell at any time.